Wait a minute, I already told you, I didn't cheat on my husband, I said, but my mother-in-law and husband didn't believe me. They acted like it was already proven. I kept denying it, but my mother-in-law wouldn't stop. My son is sterile. There's no way you could be pregnant with his child. If you get a medical test, it'll prove you cheated, but honestly, we don't even need that, it's obvious. I tried to argue back, but my own mother slapped me. I looked at my parents, but they just stared at me coldly. My name is Anna, I'm 34 and work in an office. I got married to my husband, William, last year after dating him for a long time. We both work and share house chores, so our life feels balanced. William can cook, clean, and do laundry. I've always appreciated that about him. We were living happily as newlyweds, and I thought this happiness would last forever. From the start of our marriage, I wanted to have kids. In my 20s, I was focused on my career, but as I watched my friends raising happy families, I started longing for a child of my own. However, maybe because of my age, I hadn't been able to get pregnant yet. It was disheartening, but I kept hoping. Then one morning, I woke up feeling sick. Could this be it? I grabbed a pregnancy test, and when I saw the positive result, I couldn't believe my eyes. Was I really pregnant? I called into work late and rushed to the hospital to be sure. The doctor confirmed it. Yes, you're pregnant. I can hear the baby's heartbeat. Congratulations, you're about 3 months along. Hearing this, I couldn't hold back my tears of happiness. I couldn't wait to tell William. On my way home, I stopped at the supermarket to get food and planned a special dinner. I imagined how excited William would be. Would he cry happy tears? Would we hug and celebrate together? I cooked dinner that evening with a big smile on my face. When William got home, he looked at the table. Wow, dinner looks amazing tonight, he said as he loosened his tie. Still smiling, I told him, I have big news, I'm pregnant. He froze, looking shocked, but instead of joy, his reaction crushed me. Whose baby is it? He asked. What? I stared at him, confused. I'm asking, whose child is it? His voice was cold, and his eyes were distant. What are you talking about? Of course, it's yours, I replied, stunned. He sighed deeply. I'm sterile, Anna. What? My heart sank. So it's not mine. I didn't think you'd cheat on me. I'm so disappointed. Wait, I didn't cheat on you. This baby is yours. I tried to explain, but he didn't believe me. I need time to think. I'm going back to my parents' house, he said. Then he left without even touching the dinner I made. A few days later, William called my parents and said he wanted a meeting with them. I begged him to talk to me first, but he refused. In the end, we agreed to meet at my parents' house that Saturday. I was so anxious that I couldn't sleep that night. I didn't know how to explain everything to my parents. When my in-laws arrived, my mom asked, "What's going on? What do you mean? Haven't you heard from your daughter?" I heard Anna's pregnant, but it's not my son's child. My parents froze. I never thought Anna would cheat on him. I thought they had a good marriage, my mother-in-law said. Wait, I told you before, I didn't cheat on him, I protested, but my mother-in-law and husband were already convinced I was guilty. I denied it again, but she didn't stop. My son is sterile, so it's impossible for her to be pregnant with his baby. If we get a medical certificate, it'll prove the affair. But we don't even need that, it's obvious, she added. I tried to argue, but then my mother slapped me. I looked at my parents, but they were both looking at me coldly. My husband and mother-in-law gave me mocking looks. You deserve to be slapped. You cheated and never apologized for it, my mother-in-law said. When she said that, my mom bowed her head. I'm sorry, I apologize. My mother urged me to apologize too, and my dad also apologized to my mother-in-law and husband, saying my daughter caused a lot of trouble. He grabbed my head and pushed me down to apologize. I pushed my dad's hand away and asked them to listen to me, but they wouldn't. They were so angry. You've caused so much trouble and shame for our family. You're no daughter of mine, my father yelled in front of my in-laws. Oh my God, they've disowned you. I guess you got what you deserved, my mother-in-law laughed. Just then, the door to the living room opened, and my sister walked in. Dad, Mom, please calm down, she said. Finally, she was here. My father, still furious, turned on her too. How can you stay so calm after all this? This isn't your problem. We're family, of course, it's my business. My sister turned to my mother-in-law and husband. Is it true that you're sterile? My mother-in-law and husband looked at my sister with confused expressions. "Do you think your sister-in-law is accusing us, William?" my mother-in-law asked. "No, not at all, but it might help if we had some facts to back it up," my sister replied calmly. "When did you have the test?" she asked. My husband and mother-in-law exchanged looks. "He didn't take any tests," my mother-in-law finally admitted. "What?" I was shocked, and my sister was surprised too. "Then how can you say he's sterile?" my sister asked. "Are you trying to scare us? He hasn't had a test." "But it's true," my mother-in-law said defensively. My sister stayed calm and asked, "How can you be so sure?" My mother-in-law sighed, clearly annoyed, and started explaining. "My son was married before. He couldn't have children after 7 years of marriage, but his ex-wife got pregnant right after the divorce, so it must be my son's problem." She ended her story with certainty. "That's not proof that my husband is sterile," I said, but I didn't know how to argue since I didn't know enough about it. I looked at my sister for help, and she nodded, then spoke again. "I understand why you think that, but you can't say for sure he's sterile just because of that. There are people who have kids after 10 years of marriage without fertility treatment." My mother-in-law interrupted. "Don't try to lecture me with what you found on the internet. You're not a doctor, so what you say doesn't matter." I thought, she's not even listening properly. "I am a doctor, I'm an obstetrician," my sister said flatly. "What?" My husband and mother-in-law were shocked. It seemed like they hadn't really paid attention to my sister before. "I explained this before you all got married. You're just guessing. If you really want to blame my sister, let's get a proper test. I can do it for you at a reasonable price since I'm family." At that, both my husband and mother-in-law looked uncomfortable, but they seemed stuck. "If you insist, let's do the test," my husband said, reluctantly agreeing. The test was done, and I decided to stay at my sister's house while we waited for the results. I didn't want to see my husband or go back to my parents' house. My sister tried to cheer me up, which helped me stay calm. A few weeks later, the results came in. We all met at my parents' house to hear the news. It turned out there was nothing wrong with my husband. My mother-in-law's face went pale, and my husband was surprised. "Anna, I'm sorry, but I'm glad there's nothing wrong with me. Now we know the baby is mine," he said, sounding relieved. I was speechless. Who was it that agreed with my mother-in-law and accused me based on just assumptions? My mother-in-law laughed and said, "If we'd done this test earlier, we wouldn't have had all this trouble." She didn't even apologize to me. "I guess that settles everything for now," my husband said, looking proud. I thought to myself, I can't be with someone like this anymore. When my husband said, "Let's go home together," I refused. Noticing how I felt, my sister stepped in. "I don't think she's ready to go back yet. I'll stay with her." My husband reluctantly agreed, and he and my mother-in-law finally left my parents' house. "What a pair they are, they almost convinced us too," my father muttered. "I'm sorry I slapped you the other day, but this whole mess is their fault," my mother said, apologizing. My parents were angry at my husband and mother-in-law, but from my point of view, they were also to blame. My sister took me straight to her apartment. As soon as we arrived, I felt such relief that I couldn't stop crying. My sister didn't say anything, she just hugged me and comforted me. No one believed me. Everyone looked at me with cold, suspicious eyes, and it terrified me. In the middle of all that, my sister was the only one who stood by me. I was so glad I had talked to her before the meeting at my parents' house. She came all the way to support me, and I couldn't thank her enough. I stayed with my sister for a few days, resting both physically and emotionally. Then, I made a decision. My sister came with me to my husband's house. When my husband saw us, he greeted me, "Welcome home, I've been waiting for you." He was surprised to see my sister and another person with me. My sister-in-law. "And who is the other person?" he asked. "This is a lawyer. I asked him to come today." "A lawyer?" My husband was clearly upset. "Why a lawyer?" "I can't live with you anymore. I want a divorce." When I said the word divorce, my husband went pale. Wait a minute, this is so sudden," he said. "It's not sudden, not after everything that's happened," I replied firmly. "No, I'm sorry about everything, but you can't just divorce me over that," he argued. The lawyer calmly explained to him, "From what I can see, blindly blaming Anna is grounds for divorce. Also, knowing Anna wanted children, yet hiding your infertility, is a serious issue. I could tell my husband hadn't expected this. He nodded, looking stunned. With him standing quietly to the side, I packed my things and went back to my sister's house. After that, I only communicated with my husband through the lawyer. I asked for compensation for the emotional pain he caused me, a fair division of property, and child support. Thanks to my lawyer, I got everything I asked for. Also, my mother-in-law and husband spread rumors in the neighborhood and at his work, claiming I had an affair. I sued them for defamation. In addition to getting more money, both my husband and mother-in-law were forced to publicly apologize and correct the lies they told. As a result, they lost all credibility and became socially isolated. I decided to rent an apartment just down the street from my sister's house. My parents offered for me to move back home and help raise my child, but I politely declined. I couldn't let my parents, who didn't protect me when I needed them most, raise my child. My sister also had bad experiences with our parents, who cared more about their reputation than anything else. Because of that, she distanced herself from them as well. I'm grateful to my parents for sending me to school, but I can't ignore how disappointed I am in them. From now on, I'll keep my relationship with them minimal. What matters most to me is having a sister who truly cares for me and stands by me. Of course, I'll do my best to help her when she needs it too. Above all, I need to be strong, for the sake of my unborn child. Blaming me based on assumptions, without even checking the facts, what a terrible husband and mother-in-law. And my parents, who believed them and blamed me without listening to my side, they're just as guilty. I'm so thankful Anna has such a wonderful sister. Raising a child as a single mother won't be easy, but I know she'll be okay. Cherish your sisterly bond and live each day happily.
The whispers started at my wedding. I could hear them between the clinks of champagne glasses and forced laughter. Gold digger, trophy wife, daddy issues. I'm Layla, and at 32, I married the love of my life, who happened to be 35 years my senior. The judgment in people's eyes burned, but Charles' warm hand in mine was all that mattered. Did you see her dress? Probably cost more than my car. I overheard Harvey mutter to Sterling during our garden party 6 months later. The brothers huddled near the fountain, pretending to admire the roses Charles and I had planted together. Dad's lost his mind, Riker chimed in, swirling his whiskey. She's barely older than us. I busied myself arranging appetizers, pretending not to notice. Charles appeared behind me, wrapping his arms around my waist. They'll come around, my dear, he whispered, but his voice carried the same wheeze that had been worrying me for weeks. Charles, maybe you should sit down. You're looking pale. I guided him to a nearby chair, earning eye rolls from his sons. Playing nurse already? Riker approached, his designer shoes crushing our freshly laid mulch. Practicing for when he's bedridden? That's enough. Charles's voice, though weakened, still commanded respect. Layla is my wife, and you will treat her accordingly. The party continued with artificial pleasantries, but I couldn't shake the chill of Riker's words. Later that evening, I found Charles in his study, reviewing documents with Patricia, his lawyer and longtime friend. Everything's in order, Patricia assured him, catching my eye with a knowing smile. The video recording is complete, and the papers are filed. Video recording? I asked, setting down Charles' evening tea. Charles reached for my hand. Just ensuring our future is secure, my love. You know how particular I am about details. A coughing fit seized him, and I rushed to his side with water. Through the study's window, I spotted Riker and Harvey in intense conversation by their cars, heads bent together like conspirators. I don't trust them, Yvonne, my best friend, said later that night over the phone. The way they look at you, Layla, it's predatory. Charles trusts me, I replied, watching him sleep peacefully beside me. That's all that matters. But the next morning, I discovered a printed email in Charles's printer tray. It was from Riker to his brothers. We need to act soon. Dad's health is declining faster than expected. That little gold digger won't know what hit her. My hands trembled as I read it. Charles stirred in his sleep, and I quickly tucked the email into my drawer. The man I loved was dying. I could see it in his increasingly fragile movements, hear it in his labored breathing. His sons were circling like vultures, but I wouldn't let them destroy what we had built. I made an appointment with Dr. Matthews, I told Charles over breakfast. Your cough is getting worse. Ha, always taking care of me, he smiled, reaching across the table. His hand trembled slightly. That's why I fell in love with you, Layla. Your heart. Sterling appeared in the doorway, his expression darkening at our intimate moment. The board meeting starts in an hour, Dad, if you're feeling up to it. Of course. Charles stood, swaying slightly. I steadied him, earning a glare from Sterling. I can drive you, I offered. He doesn't need a babysitter, Sterling snapped. No, but I'd like my wife's company. Charles kissed my cheek, and we left Sterling seething in the doorway. In the car, Charles's breathing grew more labored. Promise me something, he said, taking my hand. Promise you'll stay strong, no matter what happens. Charles, don't. Promise me, Layla. They'll try to break you, but you're stronger than they know. Patricia has everything ready. I squeezed his hand, fighting back tears. I promise. That evening, I overheard the brothers in Charles's study. The will reading will be our chance, Harvey was saying. She won't see it coming. I pressed my back against the wall, heart pounding. They were planning something, but what? Charles's words echoed in my mind. You're stronger than they know. Little did they realize, their father had prepared for this very moment. As I watched them leave the study, heads held high with unearned confidence, I thought about the video Patricia mentioned. Whatever storm was coming, I would weather it, not just for myself, but for the man who saw past the whispers and loved me for who I really was. The call came at 3:47 a.m. Charles had been struggling to breathe, and I'd finally convinced him to let me take him to the hospital. I held his hand as the machines beeped around us, their rhythm a countdown I wasn't ready to accept. I love you, he whispered, his voice barely audible. Remember what we discussed. Those were his last words. The flatline tone pierced the quiet room, and my world collapsed. I barely registered the nurses rushing in or being guided to the hallway. My husband was gone. Well, isn't this convenient? Riker's voice cut through my grief hours later. He stood in the hospital corridor, Harvey and Sterling flanking him like bodyguards. Alone with him when it happened. Don't you dare, I warned, my voice raw from crying. Don't you dare make this about money right now. Everything's about money with you, isn't it? Sterling sneered. Patricia arrived before I could respond, her heels clicking purposefully down the hallway. Boys, this is hardly the time or place. Your father just passed away. Our father, Harvey emphasized, whom she manipulated until his dying breath. 3 days later, we gathered at the house for what was supposed to be a family dinner before the funeral. The tension could have been cut with a knife. When's the will reading? Riker demanded, stabbing at his untouched steak. Your father's body isn't even cold, Patricia responded sharply. She'd stayed close since Charles's death, a buffer between me and the brothers' increasing hostility. We have a right to know our inheritance, Harvey insisted, especially given the circumstances of his marriage. I set down my fork. The circumstances being that I loved him? Oh, please, Sterling laughed coldly. You loved his bank account. We all know it. The question is, how much did you manage to squeeze out of him before the end? That's enough. My brother Micah stood up so quickly, his chair toppled backward. My sister just lost her husband. Show some respect. Respect? Riker scoffed. Like she showed respect marrying our father when she's barely older than us? I pushed away from the table, my hands shaking. In Charles' study, I found myself drawn to his desk. The familiar scent of his cologne still lingered. Opening the top drawer, I found an envelope with my name written in his distinctive handwriting. Finding more assets to claim? Sterling's voice made me jump. He stood in the doorway, watching me with undisguised contempt. Get out, I said quietly, clutching the envelope. This is our father's house. You're the one who needs to get out. Actually, Patricia appeared behind him. This is still Layla's house, at least until the will reading. I suggest you remember that. After they left, I opened the envelope with trembling fingers. Inside was a single note. My dearest Layla, when the storm comes, remember the video. Trust Patricia. All my love, Charles. The video. The one they'd recorded in the study. What had Charles planned? They're going to try to take everything, Yvonne said later that night, sitting with me in the kitchen. You know that, right? Let them try. I pulled out Charles's note. He knew this would happen. He prepared for it. Mrs. Wright? Our housekeeper appeared in the doorway. Mr. Riker is in the garage, going through Mr. Charles's files. I found him rifling through cabinets, papers scattered everywhere. Looking for something? He didn't even have the decency to look embarrassed. Just collecting what's mine. Nothing is yours yet, I reminded him. The will reading isn't until tomorrow. You really think you've won, don't you? He stepped closer, trying to intimidate me with his height. Think you've secured your future by seducing an old man. I loved your father, I said firmly. Something you clearly know nothing about. Love? He laughed. Tomorrow you'll learn what really matters in this family. And it isn't love. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept reading Charles's note, thinking about the video he'd mentioned. Whatever was on it had given him confidence in my future. But his sons were ruthless, determined to paint me as a gold digger who'd taken advantage of their father. My phone buzzed with a text from Patricia. Everything's ready for tomorrow. Charles made sure you'd be protected. Get some rest. I touched the empty side of the bed, where Charles should have been. I promise I won't let them win, I whispered to the darkness. Whatever you planned, I'll see it through. The will reading was set for 10 a.m. In less than 12 hours, I'd find out exactly what Charles had done to protect me from his son's greed. And something told me they weren't going to like it one bit. Patricia's office felt smaller, with all of us crammed inside. Riker lounged in a leather chair like he already owned the place, while Harvey and Sterling stood near the window, whispering. My brother Micah sat beside me, his presence steadying. Before we begin, Patricia said, arranging documents on her desk, there's a video message from Charles that he wanted played first. A video? Harvey straightened. That wasn't mentioned before. There's a lot you don't know, Patricia replied coolly, reaching for her laptop. Wait, Riker interrupted. We should have our lawyer present for this. Your father's instructions were explicit, Patricia said. Just family and myself. If you'd prefer to leave. Play it, I said quietly. My heart hammered against my ribs as Patricia connected her laptop to the wall-mounted screen. This is ridiculous, Sterling muttered. She probably coerced him into making this video when he wasn't thinking clearly. Your father was of sound mind until the end, Patricia snapped, as his medical records will attest. The screen flickered to life, and there was Charles, sitting in his study. He looked healthy in the video, recorded just 2 months ago. My throat tightened at the sight of him. If you're watching this, he began, I'm no longer with you, and I imagine my sons are already circling like sharks. Riker shifted uncomfortably in his chair. I've watched you boys, Charles continued. Watched how you've treated Layla from the day I introduced her. Your contempt, your assumptions, your cruel whispers when you thought I couldn't hear. But I heard everything. Harvey's face reddened. Sterling looked away. You see, I've made some decisions about my estate that you might not expect. Charles leaned forward in the video. But before that, let me tell you a story about your inheritance. What inheritance? Riker interrupted. Can we skip to the actual will? Quiet, Patricia commanded. On screen, Charles pulled out 3 folders. These contain records of every loan I've given each of you. Riker, your failed tech startups. Harvey, your gambling debts. Sterling, your string of bad investments. I covered everything, hoping you'd learn from your mistakes. You didn't. The brothers exchanged panicked looks. Instead, Charles continued, you directed your bitterness at Layla, convinced she was after my money. The irony isn't lost on me. My brother squeezed my hand as tears rolled down my cheeks. Now, about my estate, Charles opened another folder. Patricia, please distribute the documents. Patricia handed each brother a thick envelope. Their hands shook as they opened them. These are loan repayment schedules, Charles explained. Every penny I've given you over the years, with interest, due immediately upon my death. This is insane! Harvey exploded, papers scattering across the floor. He can't do this. He can. And he did, Patricia said calmly. Keep watching. Layla, Charles's voice softened. My love, open the locked drawer in my study desk. The key is with Patricia. Patricia handed me a small silver key. We can pause. No, I said firmly. Let it play. In that drawer, Charles continued, you'll find documentation of every charitable foundation I've established in your name. While my sons were borrowing millions, you were helping me plan homeless shelters and scholarship programs. That's the difference between greed and love. Riker stood up so fast, his chair toppled backward. This is fraud. She manipulated him. Sit down, Patricia ordered. We're not finished. As for my actual estate, Charles said, I've left specific instructions with Patricia. But know this, those who showed kindness will find kindness in return. Those who showed only greed, he shrugged. Well, karma has a way of balancing the scales. The video ended. Silence filled the room. This isn't over, Sterling threatened, pointing at me. We'll contest it. You're welcome to try, Patricia said, pulling out more documents. Your father made everything legally binding, including those loan repayments. You planned this, Harvey accused me. You turned him against us. No, I stood up, finding strength in Charles's recorded words. You did that all by yourselves. The estate details, Patricia continued over their protests, will be disclosed once Layla opens that drawer. Shall we head to the house? As we left Patricia's office, I caught Riker making a furious phone call, probably to his lawyer. Harvey looked shell-shocked, while Sterling kept rereading his loan documents in disbelief. You okay? Micah asked quietly as we walked to our cars. I nodded, clutching the small silver key. Charles knew exactly what he was doing. He protected me in the best way possible, by letting them reveal who they truly are. The drive back to the house felt like the calm before a storm. Whatever waited in that locked drawer, I knew one thing for certain. Charles had just turned his son's greed into their downfall. The study still smelled like Charles. Standing before his desk, memories flooded back. Late nights discussing charity projects, morning coffee while he read the paper, stolen kisses between meetings. The silver key felt heavy in my hand. Get on with it, Riker demanded from the doorway. His lawyer had arrived, a sharp-faced woman who kept checking her phone. This is a private moment, Micah stepped between us. Private? In our father's house? Sterling scoffed. Patricia cleared her throat. Actually, about that ownership claim. She pulled out another document. Charles transferred the house deed to Layla 3 months ago. He what? Harvey snatched the paper. This can't be legal. Completely legal, Patricia smiled. Now, shall we proceed? My hands trembled as I inserted the key into the drawer. Inside lay a leather portfolio and a USB drive labeled, Watch Me First. Another video? Sterling groaned. How many recordings did he make? Patricia connected the USB to Charles's laptop. The screen flickered, showing Charles and me in this very study exactly 1 year ago. Is this recording? Charles asked someone off screen. Then to me, Layla, darling, tell me again about your idea for the women's shelter. I watched myself sit forward eagerly. The statistics show that financial dependency keeps women in dangerous situations. If we could provide not just housing, but job training, childcare. See how her eyes light up when discussing helping others? Charles turned to the camera. Not money, not status, just genuine desire to make a difference. Riker made a disgusted sound. Turn it off. This proves nothing. Keep watching, Patricia insisted. The video showed multiple clips spanning months. Me organizing fundraisers, visiting construction sites for the shelters, Meeting with social workers. Charles narrating throughout, documenting my involvement in his charitable works. Why are we watching this? Harvey demanded. Because, Charles's voice grew stronger, this proves Layla's character. Every decision she helped make, every project she championed, was about helping others. While you three, he sighed. Well, let's review your contributions. The video shifted to security footage. Riker arguing with Charles about another failed startup. Harvey begging to cover gambling debts. Sterling demanding money for a sure-thing investment. Turn it off! Riker lunged for the laptop, but Micah blocked him. That's enough! The lawyer finally spoke up. This video seems deliberately edited to show the truth, Patricia finished. Now, Layla, the portfolio, please. Inside were detailed records of every charitable foundation Charles had established, with me listed as executive director. But there was more. Documentation of every loan his sons had taken, every failure they'd hidden, every scheme they'd attempted. Dad kept all this? Sterling whispered, face pale. Your father was meticulous, Patricia said. He knew exactly who you all were. Now, about the estate distribution. Wait, I interrupted, finding one last envelope. Inside was a handwritten letter. My dearest Layla, I read aloud, my voice shaking. If they're watching, let them hear this. You never asked for my money. You asked for my love, my trust, my partnership in making the world better. That's why I'm leaving you not just the house, but control of all my charitable foundations. You'll continue the work we started together. Riker's lawyer was frantically flipping through papers. This can't be binding. Oh, but it is, Patricia smiled. As for you boys, your father left you each exactly $1, plus those loan repayment schedules, of course. $1? Harvey's legs gave out, and he sank into a chair. That's impossible. The rest, I continued reading, will fund the foundations we built together. And one new project, a support system for women falsely labeled as gold diggers, who genuinely love partners despite age differences. Because love, real love, isn't about money. It's about making the world better together. Sterling stormed out. Riker followed, dragging his useless lawyer along. Harvey just sat there, staring at nothing. Charles recorded everything, Patricia explained softly. Every cruel comment, every scheme they planned. He knew they'd try to paint you as a gold digger, so he spent the last year building an airtight case proving otherwise. I touched the screen where Charles's face was frozen, smiling at me. He knew them better than they knew themselves. The foundations are yours now, Patricia said. All of them. You're in charge of his entire charitable legacy. Harvey finally stood. This isn't over, he threatened weakly, but his voice lacked conviction. Actually, I picked up the portfolio, it is. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have work to do. These foundations won't run themselves. As they left, I sat in Charles's chair, surrounded by evidence of our shared vision. He hadn't just protected me, he'd empowered me to continue our mission. And somehow, that felt like the greatest inheritance of all. The next morning, my phone wouldn't stop ringing. Riker's name flashed on the screen for the 20th time. You should answer it, Yvonne said, helping me sort through foundation documents. Get it over with. I picked up on the 21st ring. What? We need to talk. Riker's voice was strained. Face to face, all of us. There's nothing to discuss. 1 million each, he said quickly. That's our offer. We'll drop any legal challenges if you give us 1 million each from the foundation funds. I laughed. You still don't get it, do you? This isn't about money. 2 million then. Come on, Layla, be reasonable. Meeting's in an hour, I said. Patricia's office. Bring your brothers. Patricia had coffee waiting when we arrived. The brothers looked terrible. Sterling's designer suit was wrinkled, Harvey's eyes were bloodshot, and Riker's usual arrogance had deflated into desperation. Before you start, I held up my hand. There's one last video you need to see. God, not another one, Sterling groaned. Patricia pressed play. Charles appeared on screen, looking directly into the camera. Boys, if you're watching this, you've already tried to negotiate with Layla. Let me be clear. Every foundation dollar is legally protected. Every attempt to contest will only drain your own resources. Harvey slumped in his chair. But here's what you don't know, Charles continued. Those loan repayment schedules? They're due in full by the end of this month. If you fail to pay, everything you own becomes collateral. Your homes, cars, investments. Everything. He can't do that, Riker whispered. We never signed. Actually, Patricia pulled out 3 documents. You did. Remember those investment contracts you signed last year? Read the fine print. Sterling grabbed the papers, face growing pale. This is insane! We'll be ruined! Unless, Charles said on screen, you agree to Layla's terms. I sat forward. Here's the deal. You publicly apologize for your treatment of me. Admit your assumptions were wrong. Then, you'll each work for one of the foundations, unpaid, for 1 year. After that, your debts will be forgiven. Work? For free? Harvey looked horrified. At a charity? Manual labor, I specified. Building houses, serving at shelters, actually helping people for once in your lives. And if we refuse? Riker challenged. Then I call in the loans tomorrow, I shrugged. Your choice. The brothers huddled in the corner, whispered arguments growing heated. Finally, Riker turned back. We need time to think. You have 1 hour, Patricia said. After that, I start the paperwork to seize your assets. They fled the office, leaving their coffee untouched. Think they'll do it? Yvonne asked after they left. They have no choice, Patricia smiled. Charles made sure of that. He knew money was the only language they understood. My phone buzzed. A text from Sterling. This is cruel. I replied. Crueler than calling me a gold digger at my husband's funeral? 58 minutes later, they returned. Riker looked like he'd aged 10 years. Fine, he spat. We'll do it. But we want something in writing, saying our debts will be cleared after the year. Already prepared. Patricia handed them contracts. Sign here. As they signed, I pulled out my phone. One more thing. The public apology? You're doing it now. Live on my Instagram. You're enjoying this, Harvey accused. Actually, I'm not, I said quietly. I wish you'd seen me as family, seen how much I loved your father. Maybe then things would be different. Sterling looked away, something like shame crossing his face. One by one, they recorded their apologies. Riker went first, stiff but sincere enough. Harvey mumbled through his. But Sterling surprised me. I was wrong, he said, looking directly at the camera. Layla loved our father in a way we never did. Selflessly, completely. We were the ones who saw him as a bank account. I'm sorry. After they left, Patricia squeezed my shoulder. Charles would be proud. Tomorrow, I said, checking my calendar. Riker starts work at the women's shelter. Harvey gets the homeless outreach program, and Sterling, I smiled, he'll be building houses in the summer heat. Karma's a beautiful thing, Yvonne grinned. My phone buzzed with messages from their wives, their friends, their business associates, all reacting to the apology videos. The truth was finally out. That night, I sat in Charles's study, touching the frame of our wedding photo. I did it, I whispered. I made them see the truth. Not just about me, but about themselves. The foundations would continue. Lives would be changed. And 3 privileged men would learn the value of honest work and genuine service. It wasn't revenge. It was redemption. Just as Charles had planned all along. You missed a spot, I said, watching Riker scrub the shelter's kitchen floor. His once manicured hands were red and raw from cleaning products. This is humiliating, he muttered, dunking the brush back into the bucket. More humiliating than trying to steal from charity? Maria, the shelter's director, walked in with more cleaning supplies. The bathroom needs attention next. It had been 2 weeks since the brothers started their mandatory community service. The transformation was slow but noticeable. My phone buzzed. A text from Harvey's supervisor at the homeless outreach program. He actually showed up early today, still complaining, but he's learning. Layla! Sterling's voice called from outside. I walked out to find him shirtless, sweating under the summer sun, helping frame a new house. Can we talk? Need a break already? No. He wiped his forehead. I met someone. The woman whose house we're building. Single mom, 3 kids, escaped an abusive marriage. She told me her story. I waited. Dad would have helped her, wouldn't he? Even before he met you? Yes, I said softly. He would have. I never knew what these foundations actually did, Sterling admitted. The real impact they have. Before I could respond, my phone rang. Patricia's number. Turn on the news, she said without greeting. Now. Inside the shelter's office, I flipped on the TV. A reporter stood outside our main foundation building. Sources claim the Wright brothers are contesting their father's will again, this time alleging video tampering and coercion. What? I spun to face Sterling. Are you serious? He looked genuinely shocked. I didn't know about this. Must be Riker. He was meeting with lawyers last night. I stormed into the kitchen. Riker was gone. He got a call and left 10 minutes ago, Maria reported. Said it was an emergency. My phone exploded with notifications. Social media was already buzzing with the news, undoing all the progress from their public apologies. Emergency foundation meeting, I texted Patricia. 1 hour. At the office, Harvey was waiting. I had nothing to do with this, he said immediately. The outreach program. It's changing how I see things. Save it, I snapped, just as Patricia arrived with a thick folder. Your brother, she said to Harvey, just made a huge mistake. Show them. She spread out documents across the conference table. Charles anticipated this. There's a clause in their contracts. Any legal challenge during their service year triggers immediate asset seizure. No warnings, no negotiations. Riker's going to lose everything, Harvey whispered. Unless you stop him, I said. Right now, Sterling burst in, still in his work clothes. I called his wife. She said he's meeting the lawyers at the courthouse in 20 minutes. Then what are we waiting for? Harvey grabbed his keys. We found Riker on the courthouse steps, surrounded by reporters. His lawyer was mid-speech about video manipulation and undue influence. Stop! Harvey's voice boomed across the plaza. Brother, you need to stop. Stay out of this, Riker hissed. Show him, I told Patricia. She handed Riker the clause documents. His face went from confident to terrified in seconds. It's not just you, Sterling said quietly. Think about Sarah, the kids. You'll lose everything. The foundations, Harvey added. They're actually helping people, Riker. Real people. Come back to the shelter. See for yourself. Reporters pressed closer, cameras rolling. Riker looked at his lawyer, then at me. If I drop this, you keep your assets, Patricia confirmed, but you finish your year of service. All of it. He closed his eyes, handed the papers back to his lawyer. Press conference canceled. No comment. The reporters groaned, but kept filming as Riker turned to me. I'm sorry, he said, loud enough for the cameras to catch. Again, for everything. Back at the shelter, Maria had him clean the bathrooms twice for disappearing. I watched him work, remembering Charles's words about redemption. Your father planned for everything, Patricia said, reviewing the contract clause. He knew Riker would try something like this. He knew his sons, I agreed, and he knew they needed this wake-up call. My phone buzzed. A message from the woman whose house Sterling was helping build. Your brother-in-law spent his lunch break playing catch with my kids. Whatever you're doing, it's working. That evening, I found Harvey sorting donations at the outreach center, long after his required hours. Why are you still here? I asked. He paused, holding a child's coat. Dad used to say money wasn't real wealth. I never understood that until now. I left him there, drove home to Charles, our house. In the study, I touched the photo of us on our wedding day. You were right, I whispered. Sometimes people need to lose everything to find what matters. The foundations would continue. And maybe, just maybe, 3 brothers would find their redemption in the process. 6 months into their service, the annual foundation gala arrived. I stood at the podium, surveying the crowd of donors and beneficiaries. "Where's Riker?" I whispered to Patricia. He was supposed to speak about his experience at the women's shelter. "Running late," she checked her phone. "Traffic." The doors burst open. Riker rushed in, but he wasn't alone. Sarah, one of the shelter residents he'd been working with, followed with her 2 small children. "Sorry," he panted, reaching the stage. "Sarah's babysitter canceled. I couldn't let her miss this." I blinked in surprise. The Riker I'd known 6 months ago wouldn't have cared. "Ladies and gentlemen," I addressed the crowd, "tonight we celebrate not just our foundation's achievements, but the power of transformation. I'd like to introduce Riker, who has a story to share." He approached the microphone, straightening his tie. "6 months ago, I thought I knew everything about wealth. I was wrong." His voice cracked. "True wealth isn't in bank accounts. It's in the smile of a domestic violence survivor when she gets her first apartment. It's in her children feeling safe for the first time in years." Sarah wiped tears from her eyes, hugging her kids closer. "My father knew this," Riker continued. "He tried to teach us, but we were too blind to see. Until now." Harvey stood up from his table. "May I?" He gestured to the microphone. "Last week," Harvey said, taking the stage, "a homeless veteran I've been working with got a job. When he told me, he hugged me and cried. Me, the guy who used to spend his father's money at casinos. That hug was worth more than any jackpot." Sterling joined them, still wearing his construction site boots. "The house we finished today, it's for a family of 5 who've been living in their car. The youngest daughter asked if she could paint her room purple." He smiled. "So I stayed late to help her do it." The crowd was silent, captivated. "Our father," Riker's voice strengthened, "married a woman who understood what he'd known all along, that true legacy isn't measured in dollars. Layla," he turned to me, "we were wrong about you, completely wrong." Suddenly, Patricia rushed to the stage, whispering urgently in my ear. "The lawyers found something in Charles' private vault. You need to see this now." In a back room, she played a video on her tablet. Charles appeared, looking frail but determined. "If you're watching this," he said, "my sons have completed at least 6 months of service. Patricia, show them the final document." She pulled out an envelope. Inside was a new will addendum. "If they prove genuine change," Charles continued, "if they demonstrate true understanding of our mission, they each receive a trust, not for themselves, but to establish their own charitable foundations." The brothers stared at the document in shock. "Dad set this up?" Sterling whispered. "He never gave up on you," I said. "He believed you could change." "There's more." Patricia pointed to the screen. "Layla," Charles smiled warmly, "you'll oversee these trusts. Guide them. You've always understood what matters most. Help my sons understand, too." Riker grabbed my arm. "Sarah's housing application. Could my foundation—" "The Veteran Employment Program," Harvey interrupted. "I have ideas." "Wait!" I held up my hands. "You have to complete the full year first. Prove this change is real." "It is real," Sterling said quietly. "That little girl's purple room? I'm going back tomorrow to help her decorate." Back in the gala, Sarah took the microphone. "6 months ago, I was terrified of men in suits. Then I met Riker, scrubbing toilets at the shelter." The crowd chuckled. "He taught my son to tie his shoes, helped my daughter with homework. Small things that meant everything." Other beneficiaries stood up, sharing stories. The homeless veteran Harvey helped. The family moving into Sterling's latest house project. "Charles Wright's legacy," Patricia addressed the crowd, "isn't just in buildings or programs. It's in the transformation of his own family." Later that night, I found Riker in the shelter's playroom, reading a story to Sarah's kids. Harvey was planning a job fair with his veteran friends. Sterling had blueprints spread out, designing a playground for his next housing project. My phone buzzed, a message from Yvonne. Charles would be so proud right now. I watched the brothers, remembering Charles's words about karma and consequences. But this wasn't the karma of punishment. It was the karma of transformation. Dad knew exactly what he was doing, Sterling said, joining me. The money was never the real inheritance. No, I agreed. The real inheritance was this, the chance to become who you were meant to be. Outside, the city lights twinkled. Somewhere out there, more lives waited to be changed. And now, instead of 3 enemies, I had 3 partners in continuing Charles's true legacy. The final day of their mandatory service arrived with little fanfare. I found the brothers already at work, Riker organizing a job fair at the shelter, Harvey coordinating veteran housing placements, and Sterling supervising the completion of his 10th house. Ready for the final foundation meeting? Patricia asked, carrying a stack of folders into Charles's study. Almost. I touched the wedding photo on the desk. Just need to get something first. In the vault, behind Charles's old files, sat a small wooden box I'd never opened. Inside was a letter dated for this exact day, along with 3 identical envelopes. The brothers arrived looking different than they had a year ago. Gone were the designer suits and arrogant sneers. Riker's hands were calloused from honest work. Harvey's eyes held genuine compassion, and Sterling carried paint swatches for his next project. Before we discuss your trusts, I placed the envelopes before them. Your father left these for today. They opened them simultaneously. Inside each was a photo, Charles holding them as babies, along with handwritten notes. My son, Riker read aloud, voice catching. Today you understand what I've always known. True wealth lies in what you give, not what you take. Harvey wiped his eyes. I never stopped believing in you, even when you lost your way. Your mother would be proud of the man you've become, Sterling finished, hands shaking. Now, Patricia spread out the trust documents. Let's talk about your foundations. Actually, Riker interrupted, we have something to say first. He nodded to his brothers. Sarah's starting a counseling program for abuse survivors. I want my foundation to fund scholarships for women rebuilding their lives. Harvey leaned forward. The veterans taught me about brotherhood, loyalty. My foundation will focus on military families, helping them transition to civilian life. And mine, Sterling added, will partner with local schools. Kids need safe spaces to play, to learn, to grow. We're starting with that purple playground, but thinking bigger. I studied their faces, seeing Charles in each of them. You've really changed, because you showed us how, Riker said, by choosing love over vengeance when you had every right to destroy us. The foundations are just the beginning, Harvey added. We're selling our luxury cars, downsizing our homes. The money will do more good in the community. Sterling pulled out his phone. Remember that viral video of us apologizing? It hit 1 million views today. But look at the comments. I scrolled through. Inspired me to volunteer. Started helping at my local shelter. Changed how I judge people. Your story reached people, Patricia smiled. Changed perspectives about age gap relationships, about redemption, about what really matters. Charles knew, I said softly. He knew this would happen. Not exactly, a familiar voice called from the doorway. Maria from the shelter entered, followed by Sarah, the veteran Harvey helped, and the family moving into Sterling's latest house. We all had a hand in this transformation. The real inheritance, Riker stood, hugging Sarah, was the chance to become better people. To understand what Dad and Layla had, Harvey added, shaking his veteran friend's hand. To build something meaningful. Sterling lifted the little girl who'd wanted the purple room. Patricia handed me one final document, the official transfer of trust powers. But instead of signing immediately, I looked at the brothers. Charles believed in second chances, I said. Prove him right. We will, they answered in unison. As everyone filed out, I stayed behind in the study. The wedding photo caught the late afternoon light, and for a moment, I swore Charles was smiling differently. You planned it all, I whispered. The video evidence, the service requirement, the delayed trusts. You knew revenge wouldn't heal them. Only love could do that. My phone buzzed. A group text from the brothers. Meeting tomorrow to plan the joint foundation event? Sarah's bringing coffee, veterans are handling logistics, and the kids want to design posters. I smiled, remembering Charles's words about karma and consequences. He'd been right. The greatest consequence wasn't punishment, but transformation. His sons had lost their inheritance only to gain something far more valuable: purpose, compassion, and a chance to continue their father's true legacy. We did it, my love. I touched his photo one last time. We really did it. Outside, I could hear Riker laughing with Sarah's kids, Harvey discussing veteran outreach plans, and Sterling explaining playground safety features to excited parents. The whispers that had once haunted my wedding day had transformed into something beautiful. The sound of lives being changed, one act of kindness at a time. And that, I realized, was the greatest love story of all.
The sound of retching echoes through the country club's marble bathroom. My wedding dress, a pristine white just hours ago, now pools around my knees on the cold floor. Another wave of nausea hits, and I grip the toilet bowl harder, my knuckles matching the colour of my gown. Sophia? Darling, are you quite done making a spectacle of yourself? Evelyn's voice drips with honey-coated venom through the door. The guests are starting to talk. Of course they are. That's exactly what she wants. I wipe my mouth with the back of my hand, smearing the perfect red lipstick Maya spent 30 minutes applying. I'll be right out. Do hurry, Tyler's looking rather concerned. The click of her heels fades away, but her presence lingers like a bad smell. I press my forehead against the cool porcelain, trying to steady my breathing. My stomach churns again, but this time it's not just morning sickness. It's the memory of Evelyn's face when she announced to everyone, before I could tell Tyler myself, that I was obviously pregnant during her toast. What else could explain such a rushed wedding? She'd said, raising her champagne glass with that practiced smile. Though I must say, it's not quite the entrance to society I'd hoped for my only son. I push myself up, steadying against the sink. The mirror shows me what 200 guests must have seen. A pale face, smeared makeup, and a slight tremor in my hands that won't stop. The twins, my secret joy for barely 8 weeks, suddenly feel like a weapon Evelyn's wielding against me. The bathroom door creaks open, and Maya slips in with a bottle of water and a concerned frown. Your mother-in-law is out there telling everyone you're suffering from common breeding sickness. Her words, not mine. Fantastic. I take the water, rinsing my mouth. Did she mention the part where she's the one who triggered it by announcing my pregnancy to the entire reception? She's working that angle too, something about how you tried to trap Tyler. Maya stops, biting her lip. Say it. She's suggesting you got pregnant on purpose, to secure your position. A laugh bubbles up, bitter and sharp. My position? I was valedictorian at business school. I have a senior position at Thompson & Miller. What exactly does she think I'm trying to secure? Your place in their world. Maya starts fixing my makeup. Her movements gentle but efficient. You know what Evelyn thinks about people who weren't born into money. The door swings open again, and Tyler appears, his bow tie slightly askew. For a moment, I see the man I fell in love with. Concerned, caring. Then his mother's voice carries from just behind him. Really, Tyler? Let the help handle this. You shouldn't have to deal with such unfortunate displays on your wedding day. The help. Maya's hands freeze on my face. I watch Tyler's expression shift, see him straighten his spine, and something inside me cracks. Mother's right, he says, not quite meeting my eyes. Perhaps you should go home if you're not feeling well. We can handle the rest of the reception. The rest of the reception. Our wedding reception. The celebration of our love that's rapidly turning into a showcase of my humiliation. Handle it? My voice comes out steadier than I feel. Like you handled telling your mother about the pregnancy before I could. He has the grace to look uncomfortable. I didn't. She guessed. Tyler. Evelyn's voice cuts through the air like a whip. The Hendersons are asking for you. Sophia clearly needs time to compose herself. I watch my husband of exactly 4 hours, hesitate for just a moment before turning away. The bathroom door swings shut behind them, and in that moment, I see my future crystallize with perfect clarity. Maya, I say, wiping away a tear before it can fall, I need you to help me plan something. What? I meet my own eyes in the mirror, seeing something hard and unfamiliar taking shape behind them. I need you to help me make sure Evelyn Brooks regrets every single thing she did today. 3 weeks after the wedding, I stand in the doorway of our new bedroom, watching Tyler pack for a business trip I hadn't known about until an hour ago. "It's just 2 weeks," he says, not looking up from his suitcase. "Mother thinks it's crucial I handle the Singapore merger personally," Mother thinks. Those 2 words have become the foundation of our marriage. "And the ultrasound appointment?" I lean against the doorframe, one hand resting on my still flat stomach. "Reschedule it." He folds another crisp shirt with military precision. "Mother's arranged for Dr. Harrison instead of that clinic you chose. He's much more suitable." The pause before suitable tells me everything I need to know about Evelyn's opinion of my chosen healthcare provider. I watch him pack his cufflinks, the ones I gave him for his birthday before we were married, when I still thought love could bridge any gap. "Tyler," my voice stays steady. "Look at me." He doesn't. "Your mother can't keep making all our decisions." She's not. The suitcase snaps shut with unnecessary force. "She's helping us navigate society. There's a proper way to do things, Sophia. The sooner you learn that, the easier this will be." A knock at the door saves me from responding. It's Grace, Maya's sister, looking uncomfortable in her new role as Evelyn's personal assistant. "Mrs. Brooks asked me to remind you about the foundation dinner tonight," she says, glancing between us. "She says it's essential for Sophia to attend, even though you'll be away, Tyler, to show unity. To show I can be controlled, she means." "Thank you, Grace." I manage a smile. "Tell her I'll be there." After Grace leaves, Tyler finally looks at me. "Mother's right about this too. You need to start taking these social obligations seriously. The Brooks name carries weight, and I'm dragging it down." He sighs, running a hand through his perfectly styled hair. "That's not what I meant. But you have to admit, you're not exactly familiar with our world." "Your world," I correct him. "And from what I've seen, I'm not sure I want to be." A car horn honks outside. His driver, right on schedule. Tyler grabs his suitcase, pausing at the door. For a moment I see uncertainty flicker across his face. Just try. For me. For our family. He's gone before I can remind him that we're already a family. Me and the twins he seems to have forgotten about. My phone buzzes with a text from Maya. "Heads up. Your mother-in-law just hired Derek Miller as the foundation's new financial advisor." My stomach drops. Derek Miller, my boss at Thompson & Miller, who's been increasingly critical of my work since the wedding. Another coincidence, I'm sure. I text back, "Meeting for coffee in 20? The response is immediate, "Make it 30. And Sophia, wear something nice. Liam says Derek's wife is having lunch at the same cafe." I smile for the first time today. Maya always thinks 3 steps ahead. At my closet, I push past the suitable clothes Evelyn's been sending over, all pastels and pearls, and pull out a red dress that hugs every curve. The kind of dress that makes people notice, remember, talk. My phone buzzes again. This time it's Evelyn. "Darling, for tonight's dinner, please wear the blue ensemble I sent over. And do something about that hair. Sleek and elegant is so much more appropriate." I slip the red dress on, letting my dark curls fall wild and free. In the mirror, I barely recognize myself. Not the polished corporate lawyer, not the demure daughter-in-law Evelyn's trying to mold. This woman looks dangerous. Another text from Maya. "Found something interesting in Grace's notes. Evelyn's been meeting with Derek twice a week since your wedding. Official reason? Foundation business. But Grace says they always meet at his private club, no other board members present." I apply red lipstick with steady hands, thinking about coincidences and patterns. About how Evelyn smiled when she introduced Derek at last week's charity gala. about the sudden concerns over my performance at work. Perfect timing, I text back. I think it's time we gave Mrs. Miller something to discuss at her ladies' lunch. Don't you? The woman in the mirror smiles, and this time I recognize her completely. She's the woman Evelyn Brooks created, just not the one she intended. The email sits in my draft folder for exactly 3 minutes before I hit send. Just long enough to second-guess everything, not long enough to stop myself. The board of Thompson and Miller will have some interesting questions about Derek's creative accounting practices by morning. My office door opens without a knock. "You're still here?" Liam stands in the doorway, tie loosened, looking concerned. "It's almost midnight. Just finishing some work." I close my laptop, but not before catching another reply from Maya. Photos confirmed, meeting place documented. "Sophia." Liam steps inside, closing the door. "Derek's been in meetings all day. Emergency board calls, something about financial discrepancies." I keep my face neutral. How unfortunate. This wouldn't have anything to do with those files you asked me about last week, would it? Before I can answer, my phone buzzes. Grace's name flashes on the screen. Evelyn knows. She's furious. Called Derek twice already. "You should go home," Liam says softly. "Whatever's happening, you don't want to be here when..." The door bursts open. Derek Miller fills the frame, face flushed with rage. "You vindictive little bitch!" "Excuse me?" I stand slowly, one hand steadying myself against the desk. Morning sickness has evolved into all-day sickness, but I'll be damned if I'll show weakness now. "Derek," Liam steps between us. "This isn't..." "Stay out of this." Derek's voice drops to a dangerous whisper. "Your mother-in-law warned me about you. Said you'd try something like this when we started implementing the performance review." "Performance review?" I laugh, the sound sharp enough to cut. "Is that what we're calling it when you systematically undermine every project I've led for the past month? You're paranoid. And now you're desperate. Fabricating evidence." "Fabricating?" I open my laptop, turn it toward him. "Like these transfer records? Or the offshore accounts? Should we discuss the interesting pattern of consultancy fees to shell companies owned by one Evelyn Brooks?" His face goes white. Behind him, Liam inhales sharply. "You think you're clever?" Derek's hands clench into fists. "You have no idea what you're dealing with. By morning, you'll be..." My phone rings. Tyler's face appears on the screen. I answer on speaker, never taking my eyes off Derek. "Sophia?" Tyler sounds frustrated. "Mother's been trying to reach you. She says you've done something." "Ask her about the money, Tyler." My voice remains steady despite the trembling in my hands. "Ask her why she's receiving consulting fees from my firm through shell companies. Ask her why she's been meeting Derek privately for weeks." Silence crackles across the line. Then, "I don't know what you're talking about. Mother would never..." "Your mother would never what? Manipulate, deceive, destroy someone's career because they weren't suitable enough for her precious family name." "Sophia, you're being hysterical. The pregnancy hormones..." "Don't you dare..." The words come out like ice. "Don't you dare try to dismiss this. Check your email. I sent you everything, all the proof, every transaction, every meeting, every calculated move to push me out." More silence. Then the sound of typing. Derek takes a step forward, but Liam moves with him, blocking his path. "This is..." Tyler's voice falters. "This must be a mistake. Mother wouldn't..." "She would. She did. And you let her." I press my free hand against my stomach, feeling the slight swell there. "The question is, what are you going to do about it?" I need to talk to Mother first." Of course he does. I end the call, turning back to Derek. "You have 12 hours to resign. After that, these files go to the SEC. You're making a terrible mistake." He's trying for threatening, but I hear the fear underneath. Evelyn will what? Destroy my marriage? My career? Too late." I gather my things, walking toward the door. "You can tell her something for me, though." I pause beside him, close enough to smell his expensive cologne. "Tell her I said thank you. She taught me exactly who I need to be to survive in her world." In the elevator, after Liam ensures Derek leaves first, my phone buzzes one final time. A text from Grace. Evelyn just called an emergency foundation board meeting for tomorrow morning. Says she has proof you're embezzling funds. I smile, thinking of the second set of files Maya and I prepared. The ones showing exactly where the foundation's money really goes. You okay? Liam asks quietly. No, I answer honestly, but I will be. The elevator doors open to the empty lobby, and I step out into the night, ready for whatever comes next. Because unlike Evelyn, I have nothing left to lose. The pregnancy book lies open on my desk, untouched for hours while I stare at my resignation letter. 4 months along and the twins are already teaching me about sacrifice. My hand drifts to my growing belly as another email from the foundation board lights up my screen. Maya bursts into my office without knocking. They're trying to freeze your accounts. What? Grace just called. Evelyn's convinced the foundation's board that you've been embezzling. They're moving to press charges. The room tilts slightly. I grip the edge of my desk, steadying myself. She can't. The evidence has disappeared. Maya's face is grim. All of it. Every file, every record you collected. Someone wiped your secure drive last night. Of course I should have expected this after Derek's resignation this morning. But I hadn't thought Evelyn would move this fast, this ruthlessly. My phone rings. Tyler. I let it go to voicemail like I have for the past week. He's left exactly 3 messages, all variations of "Mother says we need to talk." There's more. Maya hesitates. Liam was fired this morning. Gross misconduct. They're saying he helped you fabricate evidence against Derek. The guilt hits like a physical blow. Liam had only tried to help, and now a knock at the door makes us both jump. Grace stands there, pale and shaking. Sophia, I'm so sorry. I just overheard Evelyn's meeting with the district attorney. She has documentation showing you've been stealing from the foundation for months, but it's not real. I've seen the real books. I know it's not. Grace, Maya crosses to her sister. Breathe. My computer screen flashes with a new email. IT security announcing an immediate system lockout. Through my office windows, I see 2 security guards approaching. They're coming to escort you out, Grace whispers. They're saying you're under investigation for fraud. I stand, surprisingly steady despite the chaos erupting in my mind. Maya, get Grace out of here. She can't be seen warning me. Sophia, go, now. They slip out just as the guards reach my door. I'm already packing my personal items, my movements deliberate and calm. Let them watch. Let them report back to Evelyn how collected I was. My phone buzzes again. Not Tyler this time, but an unknown number. The text contains only an address and 2 words. Trust me. The guards escort me through the office, past whispering colleagues and averted eyes. In the elevator, my phone lights up with news alerts. Someone leaked the fraud allegations to the press. The headlines scream about the pregnant gold digger trying to steal from her husband's family charity. Outside, reporters are already gathering. I see the trap closing. Evelyn wants me humiliated, desperate, alone. She expects me to run home to Tyler, to beg for help, to let them handle this quietly in exchange for my complete submission. Instead, I walk straight toward the cameras head high. Let them take their pictures. Let them see me unbroken. My phone buzzes one final time. A voicemail from Tyler. Sophia, please, just come home. Mother says she can make this all go away if you'll just be reasonable. Think about the babies. Think about our family. Our family. As if he hasn't chosen his family over ours at every turn. I flag down a taxi, give the driver the mysterious address from the text. As we pull away, I catch a glimpse of Evelyn watching from her office window in the building next door. Even from here, I can see her satisfied smile. She thinks she's won, thinks she's finally broken me. But she's forgotten something crucial. I grew up with nothing. I built myself from scratch once before. I can do it again. The taxi stops at a small law office. Through the window, I see Liam waiting, a thick folder in his hands. He looks up, meets my eyes, and holds up a USB drive. My hands shake as I reach for the door handle, but not from fear. This feeling surging through me isn't desperation. It's determination. Because Evelyn made one critical mistake. She assumed I'd play by her rules. But I've learned from the best. And now it's my turn to show her exactly what happens when you back someone into a corner. I step out of the taxi, one hand protectively over my belly, the other clutching my phone with its evidence of Tyler's abandonment. Time to remind them all that a mother protecting her children is the most dangerous force in nature. The first contraction hits during Evelyn's press conference. I watch on my phone from Maya's guest room as my mother-in-law dabs carefully orchestrated tears, lamenting how her troubled daughter-in-law betrayed the family's trust. "We only wanted to help her," Evelyn sniffs delicately, despite her background. Another contraction rips through me, stronger this time. Too early. 7 weeks too early. Maya appears in the doorway, car keys in hand. "Hospital, now!" I need to call Tyler. Sophia. He should know. Even now, some part of me wants to believe he'll choose us over her. I dial his number with trembling fingers. Voicemail. Again. The drive to the hospital blurs with pain and fear. Maya handles admission while I grip the wheelchair arms, breathing through contractions that are coming too fast, too hard. "Mrs. Brooks?" A nurse appears with forms. "We've contacted your listed doctor. Dr. Harrison?" "No!" The word comes out sharp. "Not him, not any Dr. Evelyn chose." The nurse hesitates. "But your insurance has been cancelled." Maya finishes, checking her phone. "As of an hour ago." Of course. Another piece of Evelyn's plan falling into place. "I'll pay cash," I manage between contractions. "My doctor is Maria Sanchez at City General." "That's not a private facility," the nurse starts, but Maya cuts her off. "That's her doctor, make it happen." Hours blur together. Through the haze of pain, I hear Maya arguing with someone at the door. Tyler's voice, then Evelyn's. Security is called. In the background, a monitor beeps, warning about my elevated blood pressure. "Sophia." Dr. Sanchez appears, her familiar face grounding me. "The twins are under stress. We need to do an emergency C-section." I nod, trying to focus. "Tyler is in the waiting room with his mother," Maya says quietly. "He's demanding to be let in, but he wasn't here when it mattered. Wasn't here for any of the appointments he kept missing, the decisions he left to his mother, the moments he gave away." "You're my medical proxy," I tell Maya as they prep me for surgery. "Not Tyler, not Evelyn. If something goes wrong..." "Nothing's going wrong." Maya squeezes my hand. "But I've got you. All three of you." The operating room is cold. Through the window, I glimpse Tyler arguing with hospital staff, Evelyn at his elbow, whispering in his ear like always. Then everything happens at once. Alarms blare. Dr. Sanchez's voice turns urgent. The world narrows to pain and pressure and fear. "Baby A is out," someone announces. A tiny cry fills the room. "It's a boy." Tears stream down my face as they work to deliver his sister. More alarms, more urgent voices. "She's hemorrhaging." Blood pressure dropping. "Baby B is out, girl. NICU team standing by." 2 cries now, small but fierce, fighting like their mother. "Maya," I manage, my voice weak. "Don't let Evelyn..." "Never," she promises, her grip on my hand fierce. "They're your babies. Your family. She'll never touch them." The world starts to fade. Through the growing darkness, I hear Dr. Sanchez barking orders, feel Maya's hand torn from mine as they rush to save me. My last conscious thought is of Tyler in the waiting room, letting his mother make one more decision for him. For us. I wake to beeping monitors and Maya's worried face. "The twins? Perfect," she says. "Small but mighty, just like you." "Tyler?" Her expression hardens. "Left an hour ago, with Evelyn. They're filing emergency custody papers, claiming you're mentally unstable and financially unfit." I close my eyes, feeling something final break inside me. "They won't win." "No," Maya agrees, "because while you were in surgery, Liam found something big." She leans closer, voice dropping. "Evelyn's been embezzling from the foundation for years. Real embezzlement, not the fake charges she made against you. And Grace has proof." I think of my tiny fighters in the NICU, of Tyler walking away while I bled, of Evelyn thinking she's finally won. "When I get out of here," I whisper, "I'm going to take everything from her, not for revenge anymore, for protection." For my family. Maya nods, understanding the shift in me. This isn't about getting even anymore. It's about making sure Evelyn Brooks never comes near my children. Rest, she says. Build your strength. The real fight's just beginning. I close my eyes, letting the pain medication pull me under. In my dreams, I see two tiny faces, innocent and perfect, worth any war I have to wage to keep them safe. The NICU's harsh fluorescent lights make everything look unreal. I press my hand against the incubator's clear wall, watching Noah's tiny chest rise and fall. Next to him, Emma fights her own battle, both of them too small, too early, but alive. Mrs. Brooks? A nurse appears with paperwork. There's an issue with the twins' birth certificates. I don't correct her about the name. What issue? Your husband filed them already. Listed his mother as next of kin and medical proxy for both children. The room spins slightly. I grip the incubator for support, careful not to jostle it. He can't do that. He did. Liam appears in the doorway, legal documents in hand. And that's not all. The custody hearing's been moved up. Tomorrow morning. Tomorrow? But I'm not even discharged yet. That's the point. He moves closer, voice low. Evelyn's judge friend fast-tracked it. They're counting on you being too weak to appear. My C-section incision throbs, a reminder of how right they are. I can barely stand for 10 minutes. Grace sent these. Liam slides photos across the twins' chart. Crystal clear images of Evelyn meeting with Dr. Harrison, handling documents, passing something that looks suspiciously like cash. She was having him report back everything about the pregnancy, every appointment. The betrayal tastes bitter. He was supposed to be my doctor. There's more. Liam hesitates. The mental instability claims. They're based on medical records showing you had severe postpartum psychosis. Records dated 3 days ago, when you were still pregnant. A laugh escapes me, hollow and harsh. They're not even trying to be subtle anymore. Mrs. Ramirez? Another nurse appears. You have visitors. Tyler enters first. Evelyn close behind. They look polished, prepared. I'm still in a hospital gown, unwashed hair, surgical staples in my abdomen. Sophia. Tyler's voice is gentle, rehearsed. We need to talk about what's best for the twins. Best for the twins? My voice shakes. Like abandoning their mother during emergency surgery? You were hysterical, Evelyn cuts in smoothly. The medical staff agreed you were a danger to yourself and the babies. Tyler had to protect them. The medical staff you bribed. I pull out Grace's photos, like Dr. Harrison. Something flickers in Tyler's eyes. Doubt, maybe guilt. But Evelyn's hand touches his arm, and it vanishes. These are clearly fabricated, she says. More evidence of your paranoid delusions. Tyler, show her the court order. He produces a document. Temporary emergency custody, effective immediately. My legs buckle, but Liam catches me before I fall. You can't take them, I whisper. They're premature. They need me. They need stability, Evelyn corrects. A proper family environment, not... She gestures at me, at the NICU, at everything that's gone wrong. This. Security appears. Evelyn's doing, no doubt. They start to move toward the incubators. No. The word tears from my throat. Please, Tyler. They're your children too. He won't meet my eyes. It's temporary, Sophia, until you're better. I lunge forward, but my incision tears. Pain drops me to my knees as they wheel my babies away. Through tears, I see Evelyn's satisfied smile, Tyler's rigid back as he follows her. Sophia? Liam kneels beside me. Grace found something else, about the foundation money, if we move fast. No. I grip his arm, pulling myself up despite the pain. Not yet. Let them think they've won. Let them think they've broken me. They almost have. Almost. I watch through the window as my children disappear down the hall. But they forgot something important. What's that? A mother who's lost everything, has nothing left to lose. I turn to him, feeling something cold and certain settle in my chest. Call Maya. Tell her to bring Grace's files. All of them. Sophia. They want to play dirty, fine. but they're about to learn that growing up with nothing teaches you how to fight dirty too. As if in response, the pain from my torn stitches intensifies. But it doesn't matter. Physical pain is nothing compared to watching my babies being taken away. Evelyn thinks this is her moment of triumph. She thinks she's finally destroyed me. She's wrong. This isn't my destruction. This is my rebirth. The Brooks Foundation's annual gala sparkles with wealth and privilege. I adjust my black evening gown, covering the still-healing C-section scar, and watch Evelyn hold court near the stage. My twins are somewhere in this building, hidden away with a nanny she hired, kept from their mother for 2 weeks now. "Everything's ready," Maya whispers, appearing beside me with 2 champagne flutes. "Grace uploaded the files to the presentation. Liam has the SEC agent standing by." I take a glass, not drinking. "And the press? Outside, waiting for your signal." Evelyn spots me, her smile faltering for just a moment before recovering. She glides over, Tyler trailing in her wake like a lost child. "Sophia, darling, how unexpected. I thought you were still recovering." "I recovered enough to attend my husband's family charity event." I smile, matching her tone. The twins' family charity, actually, their inheritance. Something dangerous flashes in her eyes. "The twins are none of your concern anymore. The court was quite clear." "About the temporary custody order? The one based on falsified medical records?" I take a step closer. "Tell me, how much did you pay Dr. Harrison to backdate those documents?" Tyler starts forward. "Sophia, you're not well. You should—" "Be quiet, Tyler." My voice cuts like glass. "The adults are talking." Evelyn's perfectly manicured hand grips her champagne stem too tightly. "Security," she calls softly. "Won't come," Maya says. "They're rather busy with the SEC agents currently searching your offices upstairs." The colour drains from Evelyn's face. "You're bluffing." "Am I?" I nod to Grace, who starts the presentation. The giant screens around the ballroom flicker to life, displaying financial records, offshore accounts, dated photographs. "Quite the creative accounting," I continue as the crowd murmurs. "Embezzling from your own charity, using it to bribe doctors, judges, even pay off Derek Miller to help destroy my career." "These are lies," Evelyn hisses, but her eyes dart frantically between the screens. "Tyler, do something!" Tyler stares at the evidence, at the photos of his mother meeting secretly with Derek, at the money trails leading to Judge's accounts. "Mother, what did you do?" "What I had to," she rounds on him. "To protect you from this gold-digging witch and her bastard children." The ballroom falls silent. In that silence, a baby's cry echoes from upstairs. "My children," I correct her, voice steady despite my racing heart, "are the legal heirs to the Brooks fortune, which makes the Foundation's money their money, the money you've been stealing." "You think you've won?" Evelyn laughs, high and brittle. "I still have custody. I still control everything. One charity scandal won't change that." "No," I agree. "But this will." I nod to Liam, who projects one final document. The medical records proving Dr. Harrison falsified evidence. The judge's signed confession about the bribes. The custody order, now worthless. "It's over, Evelyn." I step closer, close enough to smell her expensive perfume. "You can leave now, quietly, or I can have you arrested for fraud, corruption, and endangering my children. Your choice." She slaps me hard. The sound cracks through the ballroom. I don't flinch. "Wrong choice." The SEC agents emerge from the elevators. The press floods through the doors, cameras flashing, and through it all I watch Tyler finally step away from his mother. "Where are my children?" I ask him. He points upstairs, not meeting my eyes. "Third floor nursery." I turn to leave, but Evelyn grabs my arm. "You'll regret this," she snarls. "I'll make sure you never—" "No." I remove her hand slowly. "You'll never come near me, or my children again. Because if you do, I'll release the rest of the files, the ones that would put you in prison for decades. You wouldn't dare. Try me." I lean closer, whispering so only she can hear. "You taught me well, Evelyn, about power." about revenge, about protecting what's yours, at any cost. Consider this your last lesson. I leave her there, surrounded by flashing cameras and FBI agents, and climb the stairs to my babies. Behind me, I hear Tyler calling my name, but it doesn't matter anymore. Nothing matters except the 2 tiny lives waiting above. Maya falls into step beside me. Was it worth it? I think of Evelyn's face as her empire crumbled, of Tyler's final betrayal of his mother, of the price of revenge. Ask me tomorrow, I say, pushing open the nursery door to see my twins for the first time in 2 weeks. Right now, I just want to hold my children. The divorce papers sit unsigned on my desk, while Noah and Emma sleep in the nursery next door. Through the window, I watch reporters still camped outside, hungry for more details about Evelyn Brooks's arrest and the Foundation's collapse. My phone buzzes. Tyler's 4th call today. I let it ring. He's not going to stop, Maya says from the doorway. Not until you talk to him. There's nothing left to say. I trace my fingers over the twins' names on the custody agreement. Sole custody. My terms, non-negotiable. He made his choice, several times. He's asking about the Foundation board meeting tomorrow. Of course he is. With Evelyn facing charges and Derek turning state's evidence, the Foundation's future hangs by a thread. A thread I now control. Mrs. Ramirez? Grace appears, tablet in hand. The new board members are confirmed for tomorrow. And there's something else you should see. She pulls up an email chain. Messages between Evelyn and someone named Marcus Chen, dating back months before my wedding. Plans within plans. A backup strategy in case her primary scheme failed. She was thorough, I murmur, scanning the messages, even in defeat. A soft cry from the nursery draws me away. Emma's awake, her brother stirring beside her. I lift them both, their tiny bodies fitting perfectly against me, and for a moment, everything else fades away. The doorbell rings. Maya checks the security camera and tenses. It's Tyler. Let him in. The words surprise even me. It's time we finish this. He enters like a stranger, expensive suit wrinkled, eyes haunted. His gaze fixes on the twins and something raw crosses his face. Sophia, sign the papers, I cut him off. That's why you're here, isn't it? No. Yes, I don't. He runs a hand through his disheveled hair. I want to fix this. Fix what? Your mother's crimes? Your own cowardice? The fact that you abandoned your children when they needed you most? I was wrong. His voice cracks. About everything. About you. About Mother. I should have what? Been a husband? A father? A man? He flinches. I deserve that. You deserve worse. I settle the twins in their playpen, turning to face him fully. But this isn't about what you deserve. It's about what they deserve. And what's that? A mother who'll protect them, a future without manipulation and control, a life free from Evelyn's poison. And without a father? That was your choice, Tyler. Every time you chose her over us, that was your choice. He moves toward the playpen, but I step between them. His eyes meet mine, and for the first time I see real pain there. The Foundation, he starts, will survive, under new leadership. My leadership, he blinks. You're taking control? Ironic, isn't it? Everything your mother feared about me stealing the Brooks legacy? She made it happen herself. Grace clears her throat. Sophia, about those emails. Not now. I keep my eyes on Tyler. Sign the papers, then go. The twins need their nap, and I have a board meeting to prepare for. He moves to my desk, pen hovering over the signature line. You won't keep them from me forever. No. Once you've proven you can be their father, their real father, not Evelyn's son, we'll discuss visitation. The pen scratches across paper. When he straightens, he looks older, smaller. I am sorry, he whispers. I know. And I do know, but it doesn't change anything. After he leaves, Grace shows me the rest of the emails. Marcus Chen isn't just anyone. He's Evelyn's secret protégé, groomed as a backup plan, now positioned to take control of what remains of the Brooks empire. Another battle? Maya asks softly. I look at my sleeping children, at the signed divorce papers, at the evidence of yet another enemy emerging from Evelyn's web. No, I decide, not a battle, a negotiation. Because that's what Evelyn never understood. True power isn't about destruction, it's about creation, building something stronger from the ashes of what was burned down. I pick up my phone, dial Marcus Chen's number. Time to show him what I learned from his mentor's mistakes. The twins stir in their sleep and I smile. Because while Evelyn taught me about revenge, my children taught me something far more important. How to win without becoming what you hate. Mr. Chen, I say when he answers, we should talk about the future.
The small, velvet-covered box slid across the polished mahogany table, stopping just short of my wine glass. Happy anniversary, Tinsley. Remington's voice, that familiar blend of boardroom boom and condescending drawl, filled the private dining room. His smile, as always when directed at me, was all teeth and no warmth. My name is Tinsley, by the way, and this was supposed to be a celebration of 5 years married to his son, Flynn. Flynn, bless his perpetually anxious heart, offered a weak, supportive smile from across the table. His mother, Rose, gave a tight little nod, her eyes flicking from the box to my face, then quickly away. I picked up the box. It felt light. Too light. Thank you, Remington. My voice was carefully neutral, a tone I'd perfected over half a decade. Inside, nestled on a bed of cheap satin, was a necklace. A thin silver chain with a single, tiny, cloudy-looking stone. It looked like something you'd win at a carnival. Just a little something, Remington said, leaning back, steepling his fingers. To mark the occasion. More than you deserve, I'd say, but we must keep up appearances, mustn't we? A familiar chill snaked down my spine, quickly followed by a surge of heat. Flynn shifted uncomfortably, staring intently at his bread roll as if it held the secrets to the universe. He wouldn't say a word. He never did. That was Flynn. It's lovely, I managed, forcing a smile that felt like cracking plaster. I even made a show of trying to fasten the clasp, fumbling deliberately. Here, let me, Flynn mumbled, finally looking up, his hand brushing mine as he reached for it. His fingers were clumsy. Don't bother, son. Remington waved a dismissive hand. She can figure it out. Or not. Doesn't really matter, does it? He chuckled, a dry, humorless sound. Rose sipped her water, her expression unreadable. 5 years. 5 years. Of moments just like this. The subtle digs, the outright insults, the constant, grinding insinuation that I was nothing more than a pretty face who'd lucked into their wealthy family. The gold digger label had been practically stitched to my forehead from day one. They never seemed to consider that I might have a thought in my head beyond which designer handbag to buy with Flynn's allowance. An allowance, by the way, that I rarely touched. Remington cleared his throat, signaling a shift in topic. Speaking of appearances, the annual Shaw Corporation Gala is next month. This one is particularly crucial. He paused for a dramatic effect, his gaze sweeping over us. We're courting a significant new investor, someone who could really change the game for us. Emiliano Kennedy, a very big fish. Flynn perked up. Emiliano Kennedy? Wow, Dad, that's huge. Indeed, Remington preened. Everything needs to be perfect, flawless, which brings me to you, Tinsley. I braced myself. I have a very important task for you, he continued, a patronizing glint in his eye. The floral arrangements. I want something tasteful, elegant. You can handle that, can't you, dear? It'll give you something to focus on. Picking out flowers. That was my significant contribution. While they were wooing titans of industry, I was to be relegated to petals and stems. The dismissal was so blatant, so practiced, it was almost an art form. Of course, Remington, I said, my smile unwavering. I'd be happy to. Good. He nodded, satisfied. See that you don't make a mess of it. The rest of the dinner passed in a similar vein, Remington pontificating about his business acumen, Flynn nodding along eagerly, Rose making the occasional brief comment about the food or the wine. I ate slowly, methodically, the cheap necklace still in its box beside my plate, a constant glittering reminder. They thought they knew me. They saw the quiet wife, the compliant daughter-in-law, the woman who smiled politely through their thinly veiled contempt. They had no idea who I really was, what I was capable of. They had no idea about the patience I'd cultivated, the slow, meticulous burn of a long game. A very long game. Later, as Flynn fumbled with his keys at our front door, I clutched the small velvet box in my hand. The metal of the cheap clasp felt cold against my palm. He was rambling about how important this Kennedy deal was for his father, for the company, for us. I tuned him out. Inside, I excused myself, heading straight for the powder room. The necklace looked even worse under the bright vanity lights. I dropped it onto the marble countertop with a small clink. My phone, tucked into my clutch, vibrated. I pulled it out. A single new message. It read, Phase 1 complete. M. A small smile, a real one this time, played on my lips. I glanced at my reflection. The polite, demure mask was gone. In its place, something harder, something far more determined. Remington wanted me to pick out flowers. Oh, I'd give them flowers, all right. And so much more. The memory was sharp, like a shard of glass. We'd been married maybe 6 months. A dinner party at Remington and Rose's sprawling estate. I'd worn a new dress, something I'd saved up for, hoping to make a good impression. Is that new Tinsley? Rose had asked, her voice dripping with a sweetness that never quite reached her eyes. Yes, I'd said, a little too eagerly. I got it at. Let me guess, Remington interrupted, swirling his brandy. One of those little boutiques that overcharges for polyester? He winked at one of his cronies, who let out a hearty, sycophantic laugh. Flynn, standing beside me, just coughed and took a sudden interest in a nearby painting. My cheeks burned. I'd wanted the ground to swallow me whole. Later that night, in the car, I'd whispered, Flynn, why didn't you say something? He'd sighed, that weary, put-upon sound I'd come to know so well. Tins, you know how Dad is. He doesn't mean anything by it. It's just his way. Don't be so sensitive. Sensitive? I'd repeated, my voice barely a breath. He humiliated me. Oh, come on, it wasn't that bad. Just try to fit in a bit more, okay? For me? He'd patted my hand, his eyes pleading. Fit in, as if I were a poorly chosen accessory. He was trying to make work with his ensemble. That was the moment, the precise, crystallizing instant I knew Flynn would never be my partner, not really. He would always choose them, their approval, their comfort over mine. He was a product of their world, and I would forever be an outsider they tolerated. The realization didn't break me. It forged something new inside me, something cold and hard and resolute. If I wanted respect, if I wanted control over my own life, I'd have to take it. My grandmother, Nana Bia, had been a woman carved from granite and wit. She'd run her own small business, a bakery, from the age of 20 until she retired at 70, out-earning my grandfather and never letting anyone tell her what she couldn't do. When she passed, just before I met Flynn, she left me a modest inheritance. Not millions, but enough. Don't you dare let some man fritter this away, Tinsley. Her note, tucked in with the bank papers, had read. Invest it. Make it grow. Make yourself. I took her words to heart. I devoured books on investing, on market trends, on financial strategy. I started small, cautiously, learning the ropes. Nana B had always said, the best revenge is a life well lived and a bank account they can't touch. Then came Maya. We'd been inseparable in college, two nerds with big dreams. She was a coding genius with a mind like a steel trap. After graduation, she'd bounced around a few soul-crushing tech jobs. I called her one rainy afternoon, 2 years into my marriage, the sting of a particularly vicious comment from Remington still fresh. Maya, I'd said, I have an idea. A crazy one. We met for coffee. I laid it all out. My growing investment portfolio, my desire for something more, something mine. I want to build something, I told her. Something they can't touch, can't belittle. Maya listened, her dark eyes intense. When I finished, she grinned. So, you want to go into business? With me? What kind of business? Tech consulting, I said, but discreet. We focus on corporate intelligence, turnarounds for companies that are quietly failing. We find the rot, we fix it, or we advise on how to cut it out. Under the radar, highly effective. Skills I realized even then I was honing for a much more personal project. And so, Bellwether Solutions was born, a deliberately bland name for a company that was anything but. Maya was the tech brains. I was the strategist, the analyst, the one who could see the patterns in the chaos. We worked from our laptops, building a reputation for surgical precision and absolute discretion. Our client list grew, our profits soared, and no one in Flynn's world, least of all the Shaws, had a clue. They still saw me as Tinsley, the pretty, slightly dim wife, good for choosing floral arrangements. The memory of that conversation with Maya warmed me, even now, standing in the hallway of the house Flynn and I shared, the house that always felt more like theirs than ours. I was supposed to be researching florists. Instead, I was listening. Remington's voice, usually so confident, was tight with agitation. He was in his study, the door slightly ajar, on the phone. What do you mean he's getting cold feet? What rumors? This Kennedy deal has to happen. A pause. Then, louder, more frantic. Instability? What damned instability? Shawcorp is solid as a rock. Someone is spreading lies, that's what this is. Find out who, and fix it. He slammed the phone down. I heard him pacing, muttering. I leaned against the wall, a genuine smile touching my lips. The rumors of instability, carefully curated pieces of information, expertly leaked through untraceable channels. Maya was a true artist. Phase 2 was well underway. Emiliano Kennedy was indeed a very big fish, and it seemed he was starting to notice the murky water around Shaw Corporation. Just as planned, the file on my laptop was labeled Project Nightingale, a code name Maya and I had giggled over. It was anything but delicate. Inside were spreadsheets, internal memos I definitely wasn't supposed to have, and a detailed analysis of Shaw Corporation's glaring weaknesses. Remington ran the company like a feudal lord, rewarding loyalty over competence, clinging to outdated practices, and making multi-million-dollar decisions based on ego rather than evidence. Disgruntled mid-level managers, passed over for promotion in favor of Remington's golfing buddies, had been surprisingly willing to share information with an anonymous online researcher, Maya, of course. He's over-leveraged on the new European expansion, I murmured, tracing a line on a financial statement projected onto my home office wall. And this vanity project resort in the Caribbean, it's bleeding money. And every time there's a whisper of bad news or a missed earnings target, the stock takes a little dip, Maya said, her voice crisp through my AirPods. We were on one of our late-night strategy calls, which is when our anonymous little investment group, Phoenix Holdings, just happens to snap up a few more shares. Phoenix Holdings, I repeated, a small, satisfied smile playing on my lips, rising from the ashes. It felt appropriate. For years, every bonus Bellwether Solutions earned, every successful investment I made outside of it, had been funneled into Phoenix. Slowly, patiently, we were accumulating. The next morning, I was in a sleek, minimalist downtown office. Jared, my lawyer, looked up as I entered. He was sharp, impeccably dressed, and had a mind like a steel trap. When I'd first approached him a year ago, outlining my long-term intentions for Shaw Corporation, he'd raised a perfectly sculpted eyebrow. That's ambitious, Tinsley. Ambitious or overdue? I'd countered. Now, he just nodded, a flicker of respect in his eyes. The framework is solid, he said, tapping a thick document on his desk. We've structured Phoenix Holdings to be airtight. When you're ready to make the move, it will be swift and legal. He paused. You understand the implications, Tinsley? This isn't just business. This is war of a sort. I understand perfectly, Jared, I replied, my voice calm. They've been waging a quiet war against me for years. It's time I returned fire. My resolve was absolute. The years of quiet humiliation, of being underestimated and dismissed, had forged an armor around my heart, an armor made of cold, hard cash, and even colder determination. That Sunday was the obligatory family brunch at Remington and Rose's. The air was thick with unspoken tension. Remington was unusually quiet, picking at his food, his brow furrowed. The rumors about Emiliano Kennedy's hesitation were clearly taking their toll. Flynn, ever the dutiful son, kept trying to jolly him up with talk of golf handicaps and stock market optimism, his efforts falling painfully flat. Rose, however, was different. She was watching me, not with her usual cool disdain, but with an intensity that was unsettling. Her gaze followed me as I offered to help clear the plates as I made polite small talk with a distant cousin. It wasn't overtly hostile, but it wasn't friendly either. It was appraising, as if she were seeing me for the first time, or perhaps seeing something she hadn't noticed before. I met her gaze a few times, offering a bland, pleasant smile. She didn't smile back, just held my eyes for a beat too long before looking away. It was a strange, almost imperceptible shift, but I filed it away. Later that evening, Flynn found me in our walk-in closet, ostensibly looking for something to wear to the gala. He held up a dress, a deep emerald green silk, a beautiful gown I'd bought for a charity event 2 years prior. "You should wear this to the gala," he said, his voice earnest. "Remember this one? Dad made that joke about you looking like you were auditioning for The Wizard of Oz because of the color." He chuckled, oblivious. "He'd find it amusing if you wore it again. Show you're a good sport." I stared at the dress. I remembered the joke. I remembered the snickers from his parents' friends. I remembered the way Flynn had laughed along, a little too loudly. Amusing. He thought his father publicly mocking me was amusing. My fingers tightened on the hanger I was holding. "You think so, Flynn?" I asked, my voice dangerously soft. "Yeah, it'll be great. Break the ice, you know." He beamed, clearly proud of his helpful suggestion. The fire that had been simmering inside me for years flared, hot and fierce. This wasn't just about business anymore. This was about dignity. My dignity. And I was going to reclaim it, no matter the cost. "Thank you for the suggestion, Flynn," I said, my voice smooth as glass. "I'll certainly consider it." He smiled, satisfied, and wandered off, whistling. I looked at the emerald green dress, then at my reflection in the mirror. Oh, there would be a show at the gala, all right, but it wouldn't be the one anyone was expecting. The atmosphere at Shaw Corporation headquarters in the week leading up to the gala was like a tautly wound spring. You could practically taste the anxiety in the air. Remington, usually so bombastic and self-assured, was a whirlwind of nervous energy, snapping at underlings and pacing his office like a caged lion. The whispers about Emiliano Kennedy's potential investment, or lack thereof, had grown louder, more persistent. I, of course, was the picture of serene domesticity. I made several trips to the office, ostensibly to discuss floral arrangements with Remington's increasingly frazzled assistant, Haley. Haley was young, ambitious, and utterly terrified of her boss. She also possessed an almost pathological need to be liked and to be seen as in the know. "Mr. Shaw is just under a lot of pressure, Tinsley," Haley confided one afternoon, her voice hushed as she nervously shredded a paper napkin in the staff canteen where I'd coincidentally bumped into her. "This Kennedy deal is everything. He's been on the phone nonstop, trying to reassure him." "Oh, I'm sure it will all work out," I said, offering what I hoped was a sympathetic, if slightly vacant smile. "Remington always gets what he wants, doesn't he?" I stirred my coffee, feigning disinterest. It must be fascinating working so closely with him on such important matters. Haley preened. "It is. I mean, it's stressful, but I'm learning so much." She leaned in conspiratorially. "Between you and me, Mr. Kennedy's people have been asking a lot of questions about everything. Financials, future plans, leadership stability." "Leadership stability?" I echoed, widening my eyes innocently. "Is there a problem?" "Oh no, not really." Haley backtracked quickly. "Just, you know, due diligence. Mr. Shaw has it all under control." But her eyes darted nervously towards Remington's office door, betraying her unease. Perfect. My carefully constructed gold digger persona, the one they'd all so readily accepted, was proving to be an invaluable asset. No one suspected the vapid daughter-in-law of having any interest in, let alone understanding of, corporate strategy. I was invisible, and in my invisibility, I saw everything. The nervous glances between executives, the hushed conversations in hallways, the discarded printouts in recycling bins. Each little piece of intel was relayed to Maya. "The dossier on your proposed vision for the company has been delivered to Kennedy's primary advisor," Maya confirmed during one of our encrypted calls. Anonymously, of course, contrasting your clear, forward-thinking strategy with Remington's current, let's call it chaotic improvisation. "Excellent," I said. We weren't just highlighting Remington's failings, we were presenting a viable, compelling alternative, an alternative headed by someone they didn't even know existed in a corporate sense. The day before the gala, Haley called me, her voice practically vibrating with excitement and self-importance. "Tinsley, oh my gosh, you will not believe the latest." "What is it, Haley?" I asked, injecting a note of bored curiosity into my tone. I was, in fact, meticulously reviewing the final share purchase agreements with Jared via video conference, my laptop screen hidden from Flynn's view. "Mr. Shaw is planning a huge surprise announcement at the gala tomorrow night," she gushed. "He just finalized it, a new succession plan." I paused, my pen hovering over the signature line. "A succession plan?" "Yes, he wants to show everyone, especially Mr. Kennedy, that Shaw Corp has a strong future. He's going to name his successor." Haley paused for dramatic effect. "And get this, it's not Flynn." My blood ran cold for a split second, then a strange sort of calm settled over me. Of course he wouldn't name Flynn. That would mean acknowledging Flynn had some capability. "Oh?" I kept my voice even. "No, it's one of his nephews, I think." "Daniel? Or David? One of the ones from the Boston branch. Someone young, dynamic," he said. "He wants to make it clear the company is moving forward, but with his bloodline firmly in control. He even said something about it being a way to ensure the family legacy isn't diluted." Haley giggled. "I think he meant you, no offense. He wants to make sure Flynn is, well, sidelined, and that there's no question of you having any real influence ever. No offense, as if I were a mild inconvenience rather than a person he was actively, publicly planning to humiliate further, along with his own son. The sheer arrogance, the casual cruelty of it was breathtaking. He wasn't just trying to impress Kennedy, he was using the gala as another opportunity to put me, and by extension Flynn, firmly in our place. "Wow, Haley," I said, my voice a perfect imitation of breathless surprise. "That is big news. Thank you for letting me know. You're always so on top of things." "I try," she chirped, pleased with herself. I ended the call. Jared was watching me, his expression unreadable. "Everything all right, Tinsley?" I looked down at the document on my screen. The final block purchase of Shaw Corporation shares. Enough to tip the scales. Enough for 51%. A slow, dangerous smile spread across my face. "Everything," I said, "is perfect." I clicked Authorize. The confirmation flashed on the screen. Transaction complete. I picked up my phone and sent a text to Maya. "Showtime." The ballroom glittered. Chandeliers dripped crystals like frozen tears, casting a dazzling, almost painfully bright light over the assembled crowd. Hundreds of people, the cream of the city's business elite, mingled, their laughter a little too loud, their smiles a little too fixed. It was a masterclass in forced joviality, an ocean of expensive silks and tailored suits bobbing on a current of underlying panic. Shaw Corporation's annual gala was always an event, but tonight the stakes felt astronomically high. Remington was in his element, or at least a frantic imitation of it. He moved through the room like a shark, all predatory smiles and firm handshakes, his eyes constantly scanning, searching. He was looking for Emiliano Kennedy, the elusive investor who held the company's future in his well-manicured hands. But Kennedy, it seemed, was fashionably late, or perhaps strategically absent. Flynn hovered near his father, a pale imitation of Remington's forced confidence. He kept shooting me anxious glances, as if my mere presence was a potential landmine. I'd chosen my dress carefully, not the emerald green he'd suggested, but a column of midnight blue silk. Elegant, understated, and utterly forgettable, or so I hoped they'd think. I offered him a serene smile each time he looked my way, a smile that promised absolutely nothing. "Tinsley, darling, you look presentable." The wife of one of Remington's board members, a woman whose face was pulled so tight she looked perpetually surprised, air-kissed me, her perfume cloying. "Thank you, Eleanor," I said. "You look lovely as always." "Yes, well, one tries." She sighed, her gaze sweeping over me dismissively before she moved on to someone she clearly deemed more important. The usual condescending remarks washed over me, barely registering. Years of practice had made me adept at deflecting them, at letting them slide off my carefully constructed facade of polite indifference. Tonight, they felt different. Tonight, they were fuel. Each little slight, each patronizing comment was another log on the pyre I was about to ignite. Remington, after a particularly animated and likely fruitless conversation with a minor city councilman he was trying to impress, grabbed a fresh glass of champagne from a passing tray. He'd had a few already. A telltale flush was creeping up his neck. He spotted a group of older, more conservative investors, the kind who still believed a woman's place was in the home, or at least not in the boardroom. An idea, a truly terrible, Remington-esque idea, visibly sparked in his eyes. He was going to make a point. And I apparently was going to be his prop. He strode towards the small, elegantly draped stage at the front of the ballroom, tapping a fork against his glass to command attention. The chatter gradually died down. "Friends, colleagues, esteemed guests," Remington began, his voice amplified by the microphone booming through the suddenly silent room. "Welcome, welcome to what I know will be a memorable evening." He paused, beaming, clearly relishing the spotlight. He spoke for several minutes, a rambling monologue about Shaw Corporation's glorious past and its even more glorious future, conveniently glossing over the current uncertainties. Flynn watched him with a mixture of pride and apprehension. Rose, seated at a prominent table near the front, wore her usual stoic expression, though I thought I had detected a flicker of something weary in her eyes. Then, Remington's gaze found me, standing quietly near the edge of the crowd. A smirk, ugly and triumphant, spread across his face. He was emboldened by the champagne, by the captive audience, by his own inflated sense of importance. He was about to perform for what he believed was a traditionalist audience, eager to see a patriarch put his flighty daughter-in-law in her place. "And," he continued, his voice taking on a syrupy, condescending tone, "I'd like to give a special thank you to my lovely daughter-in-law, Tinsley." All eyes in the room swiveled towards me. I could feel the heat of their collective gaze. Always so supportive, always there, even if he paused, letting the insinuation hang in the air. "It's just by looking pretty." A smattering of polite, uncomfortable titters rippled through the room. My blood, which had been simmering, turned to ice, then instantly to molten lava. This was it, the moment I'd both dreaded and anticipated. Remington reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out his wallet. With a flourish, he extracted a bill. A 20. He held it up, displaying it to the crowd as if it were a prize. Then, with a sneer that twisted his features into a grotesque mask of contempt, he looked directly at me and said, his voice dripping with disdain, "Here you go, dear. Go buy yourself something pretty, little gold digger." He flicked the $20 bill. It fluttered through the air, a pathetic, insulting green rectangle, and landed at my feet. The room erupted, not in outrage, but in a wave of snickers, nervous laughter, and a few outright guffaws from his closest cronies. They thought it was hilarious. A powerful man, putting his upstart, gold-digging daughter-in-law in her place. My heart hammered against my ribs, a wild drumbeat of fury and exhilaration. This was more than I could have ever hoped for. He'd handed me the perfect opening, gift-wrapped in his own arrogance. The laughter, sharp and cruel, echoed in the sudden, ringing silence that followed Remington's pronouncement. It felt like a physical blow, but I didn't flinch. I didn't cry. I didn't even blink. Years of enduring their casual cruelty had forged an iron composure, and tonight it was my shield and my weapon. Slowly, deliberately, I bent down and picked up the $20 bill. The paper felt flimsy, almost insulting in my fingers. I smoothed out the creases, my movements unhurried, graceful. Every eye in that vast ballroom was on me. I could feel their curiosity, their pity, their morbid anticipation. What would the pretty little gold digger do now? Burst into tears? Flee in shame? Flynn looked like he'd seen a ghost. His face was ashen, his mouth agape. He took a hesitant step towards me, then stopped, his eyes darting towards his father. He looked utterly, hopelessly trapped. As always, he said nothing. His silence was a familiar wound, but tonight it barely registered. He was irrelevant. Remington, on the stage, beamed. He puffed out his chest, basking in what he clearly perceived as a moment of absolute triumph. He'd put me in my place, publicly, definitively. He'd shown everyone who was boss. He was the king, and I was just a court jester, good for a laugh. A strange sense of calm washed over me, a profound stillness in the eye of the storm. This was it, the culmination of 5 years of meticulous planning, of silent suffering, of carefully hoarded resentment. All of it, every insult, every dismissal, every condescending smile had led to this single, perfect moment. A surge of power, cold and exhilarating, coursed through my veins. I straightened up, the $20 bill held lightly in my hand. I didn't look at Flynn. I didn't look at the shocked faces in the crowd. My gaze was fixed on Remington, still preening on the stage. Then I began to walk. Not away, not towards the exit in a storm of humiliated tears as they undoubtedly expected. I walked towards the stage. Towards him. My heels clicked softly on the polished marble floor, the sound unnaturally loud in the suddenly hushed room. The spotlight, which had been on Remington, wavered, then found me, following my slow, deliberate progress. The whispers died. The nervous titters ceased. A thick, expectant silence descended, heavy and suffocating. They were waiting for the drama, the tears, the inevitable retreat of the humiliated wife. I could feel their collective breath held in suspense. I saw Rose's face, her expression unreadable, a statue carved from ice and regret. I saw Haley, Remington's assistant, her eyes wide with a mixture of horror and a dawning, horrified comprehension. She knew about the succession plan. She thought this was just another layer of Remington's cruelty. She had no idea. I reached the low steps leading up to the stage. I ascended them, one by one, my movements measured, my expression serene. Remington watched me, a flicker of confusion, then annoyance crossing his face. What was I doing? Was I going to plead? To make a scene? I reached the podium, the one he'd just used to deliver his grand pronouncements and his petty insults. I adjusted the microphone, the slight metallic squeak echoing in the silence. I took a breath. Then I looked directly at Remington, my father-in-law, the man who had systematically tried to crush my spirit for 5 long years, the man who thought I was nothing more than a pretty bauble, a drain on his family's fortune. My voice, when I spoke, was clear, steady, and amplified, carrying to every corner of the glittering ballroom. "Thank you, Dad," I said, my tone perfectly even, almost conversational. I held up the $20 bill. "I'll add it to the fortune I used to buy controlling interest in this company." The silence that followed my words was absolute, a vacuum that sucked all the air from the ballroom. Then, chaos. Remington's jaw didn't just drop, it looked like it had become unhinged. The ruddy color drained from his face, leaving him a sickly, mottled gray. His eyes, moments before glinting with smug triumph, were now wide with disbelief, then a dawning, horrified comprehension. Flynn, standing frozen by the side of the stage, turned a ghostly white. He swayed slightly, his hand reaching out to grip the velvet rope of a stanchion as if for support. His mouth opened and closed, but no sound emerged. The nervous titters that had greeted Remington's insult were replaced by a collective gasp, a wave of shock that rippled through the assembled guests. People stared, first at me, then at Remington, then back at me, their expressions a mixture of stunned disbelief and dawning excitement. This was a drama far juicier than any they could have anticipated. I let the pandemonium wash over me for a beat, a conductor savoring the sudden, crashing crescendo of her orchestra. Then, I continued, my voice still calm, still carrying authority over the rising murmur. "As the new majority shareholder of Shaw Corporation," I announced, my gaze sweeping across the stunned faces, "I have a few immediate announcements regarding the company's new direction and leadership." Right on cue, as if summoned by my words, the grand ballroom doors at the far end of the room swung open. Jared, my lawyer, strode in, his expression cool and professional. He carried a sleek leather briefcase, but he wasn't alone. Walking beside him, looking impeccably tailored and exuding an aura of quiet power, was Emiliano Kennedy, the mystery investor, the man Remington had been so desperate to impress. A fresh wave of gasps and excited whispers swept through the room. Remington stumbled back a step, his eyes fixed on Kennedy as if he were seeing an apparition. He looked like he'd been poleaxed. "Mr. Kennedy," I said, my voice ringing with newfound confidence, was so impressed with the detailed business plan and vision for the future that my team presented to him, a plan, I might add, that prioritizes innovation, fiscal responsibility, and ethical governance, that he decided to back a real visionary. I gestured towards the head table, which had been reserved for Remington and his most important guests. "Mr. Kennedy, please, take your seat." Emiliano Kennedy inclined his head towards me, a small, almost imperceptible smile playing on his lips. He then calmly walked to the head table and took the seat that had, moments before, been intended for Remington's guest of honor. The symbolism was not lost on anyone. Remington was sputtering now, his face contorted in a mask of rage and disbelief. This is outrageous. Preposterous. She can't. Oh, I can, Remington, I said, my voice dropping the dad with a chilling finality. And I have. I turned back to the audience. My first directives as CEO will be as follows: an immediate full forensic audit of all company financials, a comprehensive review of all executive positions and their performance, and an immediate halt to all non essential vanity projects, including the ill advised Caribbean resort development. Flynn finally found his voice a pathetic, pleading whine. Tinsley, what are you doing? Please, we can talk about this. He started to move towards the stage, his hands outstretched. I didn't even look at him. I simply raised a hand, a small dismissive gesture that stopped him in his tracks. He was a ghost at his own father's corporate funeral. Remington, meanwhile, was making strangled, choking sounds. He clutched at his chest, his face turning an alarming shade of purple. A few concerned onlookers started to move towards him, and then, amidst the escalating chaos, a figure detached herself from the stunned onlookers near the front. Rose. She walked towards me, her face pale, but her expression strangely resolute. I braced myself for an onslaught of maternal fury, for accusations, for a defense of her husband. Instead, she stopped before me and quietly, almost surreptitiously, handed me a small, worn leather-bound ledger. Her hand was trembling slightly. He was running it into the ground with secret debts, Tinsley, she said, her voice barely a whisper, audible only to me. Gambling debts, bad investments he hid from everyone. This proves it. Her eyes, when they met mine, held a strange mixture of defeat, despair, and, was that relief? Do what you must. Then, without another word, Roseshaw turned and walked away, disappearing into the stunned, murmuring crowd, a queen abdicating a crumbling throne. I looked down at the ledger in my hand, then back at Remington, who was now slumped in a chair, being fanned by a concerned waiter, looking pale, diminished, and utterly broken. I glanced at Flynn, a shattered man, his world imploded. A cold, hard certainty settled deep within me. There was triumph. Yes, a fierce, burning triumph. But more than that, there was the undeniable, irrefutable knowledge. I did this. I had taken everything. The transition was swift, brutal, and utterly effective. The forensic audit, guided by the damning evidence in Rose's little black ledger, unearthed a cesspool of Remington's secret dealings, fraudulent expense reports, offshore accounts siphoning company funds, and a mountain of personal gambling debts camouflaged as corporate investments. The man hadn't just been running Shaw Corporation, he'd been bleeding it dry to fund his increasingly reckless lifestyle. The authorities were notified. His downfall was spectacular and very public. His legacy, once a monument to arrogant success, was now a pile of smoldering rubble. Flynn, predictably, served me with divorce papers within days. I signed them without a moment's hesitation, a wave of profound relief washing over me. His attempts at reconciliation had been pathetic, a desperate, fumbling series of voicemails and texts alternating between blaming me for destroying his family and pleading for a second chance for us. There was no us. There never really had been. He was left with nothing but his parents' tarnished name and the bitter taste of his own spinelessness. A social pariah, stripped of his inheritance and his illusions. Rose vanished from the public eye. I offered her a modest but fair settlement, enough for her to live comfortably, which she accepted through her lawyers with a quiet, dignified silence. There were no recriminations, no further contact. It was as if a heavy curtain had fallen and she had simply stepped behind it, seeking a somber peace away from the wreckage. My new office, Remington's old domain, offered a panoramic view of the city. The skyline glittered, a testament to ambition and power. My ambition. My power. Shaw Corporation was already undergoing a radical transformation, starting with its name. Phoenix Global was stenciled on the frosted glass of my new door. Maya, sharp and brilliant as ever, was my chief operating officer, her office just down the hall. Emiliano Kennedy, true to his word, had become a vital, supportive board member and an unexpected mentor, his insights invaluable as we navigated the choppy waters of corporate restructuring. The revenge had been absolute, a clean, surgical strike. But sitting there in the vast leather chair that still faintly smelled of Remington's expensive cologne, I felt something else. Not regret, never that, but a certain stark clarity. The fight had changed me, undeniably. It had chipped away at the softer edges, replaced them with something harder, more resilient. There was an isolation to this new altitude, a constant vigilance required. Trust was a commodity I now dispensed with extreme caution. My phone buzzed on the polished desk. I glanced at the caller ID. Maya. Big news, she said, her voice crackling with energy, no preamble. That acquisition target we were tracking in the renewable energy sector, their board just signaled they're open to a serious discussion. They're impressed with what we're doing at Phoenix. A genuine smile, the first truly unburdened one I'd felt in what seemed like an eternity, spread across my face. Tell me more, Maya. As she detailed the potential, my gaze drifted to a small, unassuming box on the corner of my otherwise clear desk. It had arrived by courier that morning, forwarded from my old address. Inside, nestled amongst some forgotten trinkets from my pre-Flynn life, was a letter. It was from Nana Bie, her familiar, spidery handwriting on faded stationery. I'd found it tucked into an old investment primer she'd given me years ago, a note I'd somehow overlooked until now. Dearest Tinsley. It read, dated shortly after I'd told her about my first small successful stock market venture. Never let small men or small minds define your worth. Your mind is your greatest asset. Build your empire, one brick at a time, and make damn sure it's on your own terms. They'll underestimate you. Let them. It'll be their undoing, not yours. A poignant affirmation, a voice from the past, echoing the truths I'd fought so hard to reclaim. The cost of this victory had been a toxic family, a marriage built on lies and illusions. But the gain? The gain was myself, unfettered, unapologetic. So, what do you think? Maya's voice pulled me back to the present, to the exciting, challenging future stretching out before me. Are we going for it? I leaned back in my chair, the city lights twinkling like a million possibilities. The revenge had been sweet, a necessary catharsis. But this, building something new, something lasting, something on my own terms, this would be even sweeter. Absolutely, Maya, I said, my voice firm, alive with ambition. Let's build an empire.
The taste of birthday cake turned to ash in my mouth as I stood in our living room doorway, watching my parents methodically pack away their lives into neat, labeled boxes. My 21st birthday, and they couldn't even wait until after the celebration to drop their bomb. I'm Amelia, and this is the moment my family shattered. You weren't supposed to be home for another hour, Mother said, not even looking up from the box she was taping shut. Her perfectly manicured nails gleamed as she smoothed down the packing tape with practiced efficiency. The salon finished early. My voice sounded hollow, even to my own ears. What's happening? Father emerged from their bedroom carrying another box. We're moving to Singapore. The opportunity came up suddenly, and we had to act fast. Singapore? The word felt foreign on my tongue. When? Tonight. Mother's voice carried that familiar clinical tone she used when delivering bad news to her patients. Our flight leaves at midnight. I stepped further into the room, my new dress suddenly feeling too tight, too constraining. But what about me? They exchanged that look, the one they'd perfected over years of silent communication. Finally, Father set down his box and cleared his throat. You're 21 now, Amelia. An adult. You've always been independent, and frankly, this is better for everyone. Better? The word came out as a whisper. You've been a hindrance to our plans for years, Mother said, still focused on her packing. We've put off this move 3 times already because of your various situations. My hands began to shake. Situations? You mean my hospitalization after the car accident? My college graduation? Among other things. She finally looked up, her eyes cold and distant. The truth is, we've outgrown this life, this town, this... She waved her hand vaguely in my direction. We need more. More than your daughter? My voice cracked. Father stepped forward, reaching for his wallet. We're not completely abandoning you. There's enough in this account to cover 6 months of rent and expenses. By then, you should have figured out your next steps. The credit card he held out seemed to mock me. You've been planning this. How long? Does it matter? Mother interjected. The decision is made. We've already signed the contracts, sold the house. The new owners take possession next week. I felt the room spinning. Where am I supposed to go? You're a smart girl, Father said, dropping the card on a nearby box when I didn't take it. You'll figure it out. You always do. Maybe your grandmother will take you in, Mother added, her tone suggesting she'd already discussed this with Grandma Evelyn. She's always been overly attached to you anyway. The carefully arranged flowers on the coffee table caught my eye, my birthday bouquet, delivered this morning with a card that read, "To our dearest daughter." The lies were everywhere, wrapped in pretty paper and false smiles. I got into medical school, I said quietly. I was going to tell you tonight at dinner. I got the acceptance letter yesterday. For the first time, Mother's movements faltered. Father's expression flickered with something, pride, regret, before smoothing back into careful neutrality. That's wonderful, he said, but his eyes were already drifting back to the boxes. You'll do well, I'm sure. We need to finish packing, Mother added, effectively ending the conversation. The movers will be here in an hour for the boxes we're shipping. I stood there, watching them resume their methodical dismantling of our family home, feeling like a ghost in my own life. The birthday dress I'd spent hours choosing suddenly felt like a costume, a child playing at being grown up while the adults made the real decisions. My phone buzzed in my purse. Probably Ethan, wondering why I wasn't at our meeting spot for the birthday dinner he'd planned. How could I tell him that while I was getting my hair done for our celebration, my parents were plotting their escape? I turned and walked out, leaving behind the credit card, the flowers, and the last remnants of my childhood illusions. They didn't call after me. They didn't even look up. In the driveway, I paused, keys in hand, and realized with startling clarity that this wasn't just an ending, it was a beginning. They thought they were writing me out of their story, but really, they were just giving me the first page of my own. And revenge, I decided, would make one hell of a opening chapter. Grandma Evelyn's hands trembled as she set down her teacup. 3 days since my parents' departure, and the betrayal still hung thick in the air like smoke after a house fire. They've been planning this for over a year, she said, sliding a stack of papers across her antique coffee table. I found these when I was helping your mother organize her study last spring. The documents blurred before my eyes. Bank statements, property listings in Singapore, email correspondences dated months back. Each page revealed another carefully constructed step in their escape plan. Why didn't you tell me? My voice cracked. Would you have believed me? Evelyn's eyes, so like my mother's but warmer, searched my face. Karen, your mother. She's always been skilled at making others doubt their own perceptions. A memory surfaced. Me at 16, telling Mother about catching Father in a heated phone conversation with an unknown woman. She'd convinced me I'd misunderstood, that I was being dramatic. The woman turned out to be his Singapore business contact. They've listed the house for sale months ago, I said, scanning a real estate contract, while I was still living there, while they were helping me plan for medical school. Your acceptance letter, Evelyn said quietly. Did you tell them? Yes. I laughed bitterly. Right before they walked out, Mother didn't even pause in her packing. The doorbell rang, interrupting our conversation. Evelyn's housekeeper showed Aunt Lily in, her face pinched with concern. I just got off the phone with Karen, she announced without preamble. She's furious that you're staying with Mother instead of following their plan. Their plan, I echoed. The apartment they arranged, the one the credit card was supposed to pay for. Lily's eyes narrowed. They're saying you're being deliberately difficult. Of course they are. I stood up, pacing the length of Evelyn's living room. Heaven forbid their perfectly orchestrated abandonment doesn't go according to schedule. Amelia, Evelyn's voice carried a warning note. Don't let bitterness poison you. Too late. The words tasted like metal in my mouth. Did you know they've been transferring money to offshore accounts? It's all here in black and white. Years of planning, while I worked part-time jobs to avoid asking them for help with college expenses. Lily picked up one of the bank statements. This can't be legal. It probably isn't. Evelyn's hands clasped tightly in her lap, which is why I've already contacted my lawyer. I stopped pacing. What? I'm changing my will, she said firmly. Everything goes to you. They won't be able to touch it. Mother, think carefully, Lily cautioned. Karen won't take this well. Karen stopped being concerned about my wishes the day she decided to abandon her only child. Evelyn's voice carried steel beneath its softness. My phone buzzed. Ethan, again. I'd been avoiding his calls since that night, unsure how to explain that my perfectly curated family life had been a house of cards all along. You should talk to him, Lily said gently. He came by the house yesterday looking for you. I can't. I swallowed hard. Not yet. Your parents' choices don't define you, Evelyn said, rising slowly from her chair. But your response to them will. The doorbell rang again. This time Uncle Derek stood in the doorway, his expression grave. They're selling everything, he said without greeting. The house, the vacation property, even Karen's medical practice. Mark's already accepted a partnership position in Singapore. How long have you known? I demanded. His silence was answer enough. Get out. My voice shook with fury. All of you who knew, who watched them plan this and said nothing, get out. Amelia? Lily started, but Evelyn raised her hand. Let her be, she said quietly. She needs time. They filed out, leaving only Evelyn and me in the suddenly too quiet room. I picked up another document, a lease agreement for a luxury apartment in Singapore's most exclusive district. They're going to regret this, I said, my voice steady for the first time in days. I'm going to make sure of it. Evelyn touched my shoulder gently. Revenge is a double-edged sword, dear one. Then I'll learn to bleed. I met her eyes in the mirror above her fireplace. They taught me that much, at least, how to smile through pain. The papers in my hands held more than just evidence of their betrayal. They held the seeds of their destruction. And I intended to plant them carefully, water them with tears, and watch them grow into something that would shatter their carefully constructed new life just as thoroughly as they'd shattered mine. The storage unit door groaned open, revealing 21 years of carefully curated lies. Mother's meticulous labeling system made it easy to find what I was looking for. Boxes marked family documents and financial records stood in neat rows against the back wall. I'd found the key in Father's old desk drawer, along with a receipt for a year's prepaid rent on this unit. They'd planned to keep these secrets locked away, probably hoping I'd never think to look here. You shouldn't be doing this alone, Ethan said from behind me. After a week of avoiding him, I'd finally called. Some truths needed a witness. I need to know everything. I pulled out the first box, dust coating my fingers. Help me or leave. He answered by grabbing another box. The first files revealed nothing surprising, old tax returns, insurance policies. But deeper in the second box, I found it, a folder labeled Singapore Initiative, 2019. 2 years of planning, documented in excruciating detail. Look at this, I said, holding up a series of emails. They started transferring money offshore before I even graduated high school. Ethan read over my shoulder, his breath warm against my neck. They were setting up shell companies. And here's the best part. I pulled out a familiar document. Remember when they convinced me to sign over my college fund to better manage it? They used it as seed money for their Singapore venture. That's theft, Ethan said quietly. That's family, I corrected, bitter laughter bubbling up. At least, their version of it. My phone buzzed, another message from Mother. They'd been alternating between threats and guilt trips since discovering Grandma Evelyn's plan to change her will. They're getting desperate, I murmured, showing Ethan the message. Listen to this. Your grandmother's mental state is questionable. We're only trying to protect the family legacy. Protect it for themselves, you mean? A flash of color caught my eye. A red leather diary wedged between files. Mother's handwriting filled its pages, dating back 3 years. Oh, God. My hands shook as I read. They never planned to tell me in person. There's a letter here they wrote, explaining everything. They were going to mail it after they left. Ethan's arm wrapped around my shoulders. Amelia. Wait, there's more. I flipped through the pages. They've been monitoring my bank accounts, my phone records. They knew about my medical school acceptance 2 weeks ago. They read my emails. That's why they rushed their departure, Ethan realized. They knew you'd want their support during medical school. The storage unit's fluorescent lights buzzed overhead as I absorbed this new betrayal. Every headache-inducing flicker matched the pulse of rage building behind my eyes. My phone buzzed again. Uncle Derek this time. Your parents are filing for conservatorship over your grandmother. They're claiming she's being manipulated. The diary fell from my numb fingers. They're trying to take control of her assets before she can change her will. They won't succeed, Ethan said firmly. We have evidence of their planning, their financial manipulation. Evidence they never thought I'd find. I gestured at the storage unit. They're getting sloppy, desperate. A new message lit up my phone. From Sophie, my cousin. Mom and Dad are fighting about you. Dad says what Aunt Karen and Uncle Mark did was wrong, but Mom's taking their side. Things are getting ugly. I looked at the scattered documents around us. Proof of years of calculated betrayal. They're not just destroying our family, I said slowly. They're forcing everyone to choose sides. What are you going to do? I picked up Mother's diary, its pages heavy with secrets. They taught me well, how to plan, how to wait, how to strike where it hurts most. I met Ethan's concerned gaze. They just never thought I'd use those lessons against them. Amelia, revenge won't heal this. No, I agreed, tucking the diary into my bag. But it might prevent them from hurting anyone else. They're trying to take everything from Grandma Evelyn now. Who's next? The storage unit's door slammed shut behind us, the sound echoing like a judge's gavel. In my bag, the diary pressed against my side, a weapon loaded with their own words, their own confessions. They'd taught me another lesson, too. Family secrets make the best ammunition. The engagement ring caught the morning light as I twisted it around my finger. Ethan had proposed last night, after weeks of careful planning. It should have been the happiest moment of my life. Instead, I sat in Grandma Evelyn's lawyer's office, watching my world tilt on its axis once again. Your parents' legal team has filed an emergency petition, Mr. Chen said, sliding documents across his desk. They're claiming elder abuse and undue influence. Evelyn's hand found mine under the table. They won't succeed. They don't need to succeed, I said, the realization hitting me like ice water. They just need to drag this out long enough to drain your resources. There's more. Mr. Chen's expression tightened. They've submitted evidence suggesting you've been manipulating your grandmother's medication schedule to affect her decision-making capacity. The room spun slightly. That's impossible. I've never... They have pharmacy records, he interrupted gently, showing irregular refill patterns over the past month. Evelyn's grip tightened. That's because I switched pharmacies. They're also claiming financial exploitation. He tapped another document. Large withdrawals from your accounts coinciding with visits to your grandmother. My engagement ring felt suddenly heavy. The withdrawals were for the medical school deposit, and Ethan's ring. They're building a narrative, Mr. Chen explained. One that paints you as an opportunistic granddaughter taking advantage of a vulnerable elderly woman. The irony burned like acid. While they're the ones trying to seize control of her assets. My phone buzzed. Aunt Lily. We need to talk. Derek's found something. They're not just attacking me anymore, I said, standing. They're trying to destroy my future. Medical school, my engagement, my relationship with Grandma. They want to take it all. Amelia. Evelyn's voice carried a warning. Don't let anger cloud your judgment. No, I agreed, picking up the legal documents. Anger makes things crystal clear. Uncle Derek was waiting at his office, looking more haunted than usual. You need to see this. He pulled up security footage from my parents' medical practice. There I was, entering after hours 2 weeks ago, except I'd never been there. Someone used your old keycard, he explained. They accessed patient files, financial records. Your mother's claiming you stole confidential information. They're framing me. The words tasted like ashes. But who? Sophie. Derek wouldn't meet my eyes. Your mother convinced her it was for your own good, to stop you from making a terrible mistake. My cousin, my friend, another betrayal to add to the growing collection. They're good at this, I said quietly, turning family against family. Not everyone. Derek pulled out a USB drive. I made copies of everything before they could alter the timestamps. And there's something else. Emails between your parents and their Singapore partners dating back 5 years. My phone buzzed again. Ethan, this time. Your parents just called me. They're saying they have proof you've been lying about everything. I looked at my reflection in Derek's office window, at the girl my parents had shaped with their careful lessons in manipulation and control. They'd taught me too well. Tell them you believe them, I said. Tell them you're having doubts about me. What? Why would I? Because we need them to think they're winning. I touched the USB drive in my pocket. They're not the only ones who can play this game. Derek cleared his throat. Amelia, revenge won't give you back what they took. I don't want it back. I met his gaze steadily. I want to build something new, something they can't touch. But first, I need to make sure they can never hurt anyone else the way they hurt me. My phone lit up with another message, from Mother this time. We're only trying to protect the family legacy. Stop fighting us and we can work something out. I thought of the evidence in my possession, of Sophie's betrayal, of the careful trap they were laying. They expected me to react with anger, to make mistakes, to prove their narrative right. Instead, I would give them exactly what they wanted, a daughter who appeared to be falling apart under pressure. Let them think they were winning. After all, they'd taught me the most important lesson of all. The best revenge is served with a smile. The whispers followed me through the hospital corridors like poison gas. 2 nurses stopped talking when I passed, their eyes sliding away from mine. In the cafeteria, a group of residents huddled over their phones, glancing up at me with poorly concealed interest. I found out why when I checked my email. Someone, Mother, obviously, had sent an anonymous letter to the medical school board questioning my mental stability and ethical fitness. Copies had gone to every major hospital in the region. They're saying you manipulated your grandmother's medical records, Sophie said, appearing beside me like a ghost, and that you're unstable, potentially dangerous to patients. I closed my laptop slowly. Is that why you helped them frame me at the clinic? Because you believe I'm unstable? She flinched. I didn't. They said it was for your own good, that you needed help. Help? I laughed, the sound sharp enough to make nearby students turn. Like how they helped me by stealing my college fund? Or by abandoning me on my birthday? That's not... She stopped, twisting her hands. They're saying you've been lying about everything. That you're the one who... Get out! My voice was steady, even as my hands shook. And tell them their plan worked. Everyone's talking about the unstable med student who might snap at any moment. My phone buzzed. Ethan, canceling our dinner plans. Again. His messages had grown increasingly distant since my parents contacted him. Another email arrived, from the medical school board. My admission was under review pending investigation. I walked out of the hospital into the rain, not bothering with an umbrella. The water mixed with tears I refused to acknowledge. Amelia. Uncle Derek stood by my car, holding a folder. You need to see this. Inside were printouts of more emails, my parents coordinating with their lawyers, planning each step of my destruction. They'd anticipated every move, set up every domino perfectly. They're thorough, I said, voice hollow. I'll give them that. There's more. Derek hesitated. They're planning to have Evelyn declared incompetent. They've already lined up doctors willing to testify. My hands crumpled the papers. Of course they have. Mother probably treated their children for free, built up favors over years. You need to stop fighting them, he said quietly. They won't stop until they've destroyed everything you care about. I looked at my reflection in the car window, at the girl they'd created, the one they thought they could control or destroy at will. No. Amelia. They want me to break? I turned to face him. Fine, I'll break. I'll have a very public meltdown, give them exactly what they want. Let them think they've won. And then? I pulled out my phone, scrolling through the evidence I'd gathered. Then I'll show everyone exactly who they really are. Every manipulation, every lie, every betrayal, documented in their own words. They'll never forgive you. Good. I got into my car, because I'll never forgive them either. At home, Grandma Evelyn was waiting with Aunt Lily. Their faces told me they'd heard the news. They're saying terrible things about you, Lily said, reaching for me. I stepped back. They're saying true things about themselves. They just don't know it yet. Revenge won't heal this wound, Evelyn warned. I don't want healing. I pulled out Mother's diary, the USB drive, the emails. I want justice, and I want them to feel what I felt, watching everything they built crumble around them. My phone lit up with another message, from Mother. Stop this now, and we can still fix things. You're only hurting yourself. I thought of the medical school board, of Ethan's growing distance, of Sophie's betrayal. They were right, I was hurting. But pain, I'd learned, could be weaponized. I'm going to give them exactly what they want, I told Evelyn and Lily. The unstable daughter, the family scandal, the public meltdown, and when they're celebrating their victory, when they think they've finally broken me completely. I left the sentence unfinished, but I could see in their eyes that they understood. Sometimes the only way to win against masters of manipulation is to play their game better than they do, and they'd taught me so very well. The annual family charity gala became my stage for destruction. Mother and Father had flown back specifically for this event. Their reputation demanded it. They'd spent 20 years building their image in this community, and I was about to tear it down in 20 minutes. I wore red, their favorite color for special occasions, the dress they'd bought me for my college graduation before they'd decided I was disposable. Ethan stood across the room, deliberately avoiding my eyes. He'd chosen his side. You shouldn't be here, Sophie whispered as I passed. Everyone's talking about your condition. That's the point. I smiled, the expression sharp enough to make her step back. Mother held court near the stage, elegant in black silk, while Father worked the room with practiced charm. They'd orchestrated everything perfectly, the sympathetic whispers about their troubled daughter, the concerned glances, the carefully crafted narrative of parents trying to protect their unstable child. Ladies and gentlemen, the event coordinator announced, we'll now hear from Dr. Karen about this year's charitable initiatives. Mother approached the podium, radiating professional warmth. I moved closer, USB drive heavy in my clutch. Before we begin, I called out, my voice carrying across the suddenly quiet room, I think we should discuss a different kind of charity. The kind that involves stealing from your daughter and abandoning her on her birthday. The silence turned sharp. Mother's smile didn't waver. Amelia, sweetheart, this isn't the time or place for... It's exactly the time. I pulled out my phone, connecting it to the presentation system. Let's talk about offshore accounts, about forged documents, about 20 years of calculated manipulation. Father appeared at my elbow, gripped tight on my arm. You're making a scene. No, I corrected, shaking free. I'm telling the truth. Finally. The first email appeared on the screen. Mother discussing their escape plans years ago, then bank statements, legal documents, their carefully documented betrayal displayed in high definition. She's unwell, Mother announced to the crowd, voice thick with manufactured concern. We've tried to keep this private, but... Private? I laughed. Like how you privately drained my college fund? Or privately planned to have Grandma Evelyn declared incompetent? Murmurs rippled through the crowd. I saw Uncle Derek move toward the exit. Aunt Lily's hand pressed to her mouth, Sophie's face pale with recognition. Then everything went dark. The backup generators kicked in, but the damage was done. My evidence vanished with the power. Father stood by the electrical panel, key in hand. This is exactly what we've been worried about, Mother said smoothly. These paranoid delusions, these public outbursts. Security approached, summoned by Father's discreet signal. I saw Ethan turn away, unable to watch. You taught me too well, I said as they reached for me. About manipulation, about control, about destroying people while looking like the victim. I learned from the best. Take her out quietly, Father instructed. She's clearly having another episode. The crowd parted as security led me away, their faces a blur of pity and secondhand embarrassment, exactly as my parents had planned. Their unstable daughter finally breaking down publicly, proving everything they'd been saying. Outside, the night air hit like a slap. My phone buzzed. Grandma Evelyn. They're on their way to my house with the doctors. I'm sorry, dear one. I couldn't stop them. Another message followed, from the medical school board. My admission wasn't just under review anymore. It had been revoked. I sank onto the steps, the concrete cold through my dress. They'd won. Every carefully laid plan, every piece of evidence, every attempt at justice, destroyed by a simple power switch and years of carefully cultivated influence. A shadow fell over me. Uncle Derek stood there, face grim. They're having Evelyn committed tonight. They've already filed the emergency papers. It's over, I whispered, the fight draining out of me. They've taken everything. Not everything. He held out a phone. Not mine, but one I recognized from the storage unit. Mother's old device, the one she'd replaced before leaving. What? They taught you about manipulation, he said quietly, but they forgot about backup plans. Your grandmother wasn't the only one recording everything. I took the phone, its weight familiar yet different. Not evidence of their betrayal this time, but proof of their destruction. Sometimes you have to lose everything to see clearly what you need to do next. And I could finally see. The hospital boardroom felt like a courtroom, with mother and father seated on one side, their lawyers flanking them like guards. Grandma Evelyn sat beside me, her hand steady on my arm despite the doctors they'd brought to testify about her condition. I placed Mother's old phone on the table. Before we begin this competency hearing, there's something everyone needs to see. More fabricated evidence? Mother's smile was pristine, practiced. Sweetheart, you're only making things worse for yourself. I pressed play. Mother's voice filled the room, not her public voice, but the cold one I remembered from that birthday night. The video showed her and father in their study, dated 3 years ago, discussing their plans in detail. The Singapore deal is almost final, father said on screen. We just need to move the assets quietly, the girls' college fund first, then the offshore accounts. And Evelyn? Mother asked. Once we're established overseas, we'll have her declared incompetent. Everything transfers to us as next of kin. The board members shifted uncomfortably. Mother's lawyer started to speak, but I wasn't finished. There's more. I switched to a more recent recording. Mother talking to her doctors, arranging false testimony about Evelyn's mental state. Then emails detailing their plans to destroy my medical school prospects. These recordings are inadmissible, their lawyer protested, obtained without consent. By your own phone, I cut in, looking at Mother. The one you thought you'd wiped clean before replacing it. The one that kept backing up to your cloud account because you never changed the settings. Father's facade cracked first. You had no right... Like you had no right to steal my future? My voice stayed steady. To plan my grandmother's imprisonment while pretending to care about her welfare? Everything we did, Mother began, her professional mask slipping, was for the good of... Your Singapore dreams? Evelyn's voice carried unexpected steel. Your offshore accounts? Tell me, Karen, when did you decide your own daughter was worth less than your ambitions? The boardroom door opened. Uncle Derek entered with 2 police officers and a man in a suit. Miss Thompson? The suit approached. I'm with the Financial Crimes Division. We'd like to ask your parents some questions about certain irregular transactions and potential elder abuse allegations. Mother's perfect mask shattered. You wouldn't dare. After everything we've done for you. Done for me? I stood, finally letting the rage show. You stole from me, abandoned me, tried to destroy everything I cared about. And when that wasn't enough, you tried to lock away the only person who ever truly protected me. We were protecting you from yourself, Father insisted, but his eyes were on the officers. No, I gathered the evidence files. You were protecting yourselves, and you taught me exactly how to do the same thing. The next hour passed in a blur of statements and signatures. Mother and father were led away for questioning, their lawyers scrambling to damage control. The competency hearing was dismissed, Evelyn's rights fully restored. You did it, Sophie whispered from the doorway. She'd slipped in during the chaos. I'm so sorry I didn't believe you sooner. I looked at my parents through the boardroom windows as they were escorted out. They'd taught me everything about power and control, about maintaining perfect facades while destroying lives. They just never expected me to learn those lessons so well. Amelia, Evelyn said softly, it's over. But it wasn't. Not really. Because in destroying them, I'd become what they made me. Someone capable of methodically dismantling others' lives. The victory tasted like ashes. My phone buzzed. Ethan. I saw the news. Can we talk? What will you do now? Derek asked, gathering the evidence files. I watched mother and father disappear into separate police cars, their carefully constructed world crumbling around them. They'd wanted to write me out of their story, but instead, I'd become its author. Now, I picked up mother's phone, the instrument of their destruction. Now I learn how to write my own story, one that doesn't end in revenge. Because they'd taught me one final lesson. Victory and healing aren't always the same thing, and I had to choose which one I wanted more. The courthouse steps felt different under my feet as I left the sentencing hearing. Mother and father's faces had remained stoic as the judge detailed their financial crimes, but I caught the slight tremor in mother's hand, the tightness around father's eyes. Their perfect masks finally cracking. You didn't have to come today, Ethan said, waiting beside his car. Yes, I did. I handed him the envelope I'd been carrying. My medical school acceptance letter. The board reversed their decision after reviewing the evidence. His smile was warm, genuine. You're going to be an amazing doctor. Like mother, like daughter? The words tasted different now, less bitter. At Grandma Evelyn's house, Sophie waited on the porch, uncertainty in every line of her body. We hadn't spoken since the hospital boardroom. I brought your old photos, she said, holding out a shoebox. The ones from when we were kids, before everything. Inside were memories captured in fading color, birthday parties, family vacations, moments when the smiles might have been real, or maybe we'd all just gotten better at pretending. They weren't always like this, Sophie whispered, were they? No. I touched a photo of Mother teaching me to ride a bike. They were exactly like this, perfect on the surface, hollow underneath. We just didn't know how to see it then. Evelyn's voice carried from inside, where she was talking to Uncle Derek about the foundation we'd started, supporting children of parental abandonment, using my parents' seized assets to heal what they'd broken in others. The Singapore property sold, Derek reported, joining us. The money's been transferred to the foundation's account. I nodded, thinking of the empire my parents had tried to build on stolen dreams and broken trust. Now it would build something else entirely. There's something you should see, Evelyn said, holding out a letter. I found it in your mother's old medical school yearbook. The paper was yellowed, the handwriting achingly familiar, my grandmother's, decades younger. A letter to my mother, full of warnings about ambition's cost, about the price of putting success above love. She'd seen it coming, even then. She never read it, Evelyn said softly. I couldn't save her from becoming what she feared most. But you saved yourself. Did I? I looked at the foundation paperwork spread across her table. Or did I just learn to destroy more efficiently? You learned to heal, Ethan corrected, taking my hand. Starting with yourself. The engagement ring caught the light, no longer feeling like a weight. We'd postponed the wedding during the trial, but now... I have something for you, Sophie said, pulling another envelope from her bag. Letters from your parents, written in custody before sentencing. I haven't read them. I took the envelope but didn't open it. Some words couldn't fix what was broken, and some breaks needed to stay that way to heal properly. The foundation's first fundraiser is next week, I said instead. We're helping 3 students who lost their college funds to parental fraud. Like mother, like daughter, Sophie echoed my earlier words, but with a different meaning. You're building something from what they destroyed. Later, alone in my apartment, I finally opened my parents' letters. Their words were what I expected, justifications wrapped in apologies, manipulations hidden in declarations of love. But they didn't have power anymore. My phone buzzed with a message from the medical school board. My first rotation would be in pediatrics, helping children heal, protecting them from harm, building something new from the lessons of the past. I placed my parents' letters in the shoebox with the old photos. Not to forget, but to remember differently. They'd taught me everything about power, control, and destruction. But they'd also taught me, unwittingly, about resilience, healing, and the strength to choose a different path. The foundation paperwork waited on my desk, next month's cases ready for review. 3 more families to help, 3 more stories to change. Sometimes the best revenge isn't destruction at all. It's creation, building something beautiful from the ashes of what was lost. And I was just getting started.
I stared at the acceptance letter one last time, my fingers trembling as I traced the embossed letterhead of the prestigious Italian architecture program. The paper felt heavy, like it carried the weight of all my dreams. My name, Emma, looked beautiful printed there, followed by words that should have changed my life. We are pleased to accept you. Emma, get down here now! Mom's voice shattered my moment. I knew that tone. It meant Truman needed something again. I tucked the letter into my desk drawer, buried beneath a stack of sketches and designs. It would stay there, collecting dust, just like my dreams. Coming, I called back, taking the stairs 2 at a time. The scene in our living room was familiar. Mom and Dad on the couch, Truman pacing anxiously, his perfect hair slightly disheveled, a sure sign he was about to ask for something big. Sit down, honey, Dad said, using his gentle voice. The one that always preceded bad news or impossible requests. What's going on? I asked, though I already knew. There was only one reason they'd gather like this on a Sunday afternoon. Truman cleared his throat. So, Tiffany and I set a date for the wedding. That's great? I tried to sound enthusiastic, but my stomach was already nodding. It's at the Grand Plaza, Mom beamed. Isn't that wonderful? The Grand Plaza. Of course. Only the most expensive venue in town would do for Golden Boy Truman and his Instagram-famous fiancée. The thing is, Truman ran his hands through his hair, we're a bit short on the deposit, and I know you've been saving up for whatever it was. Architecture school in Italy, I said firmly. I've been saving for 3 years. Right, that. He waved his hand dismissively. But this is my wedding, Em. The most important day of my life. Mom leaned forward. Emma, sweetie, you can always study later. Truman needs this now. The deposit is due tomorrow, and they won't hold the date. Later? I laughed, but it came out more like a choke. I'm 28. When exactly is later? Don't be dramatic, Dad sighed. Family comes first. You know that. My best friend Audrey's words from last week echoed in my head. They treat you like an ATM with legs, and you let them. How much? I asked, my voice hollow. Truman named a figure that made my heart stop. It was almost everything I had saved. That's insane, I protested. That's my future you're asking for. Emma, Mom's voice turned sharp. Your brother has found someone special. Are you really going to stand in the way of his happiness? I looked at Truman, remembering all the times I'd given in. The car repair money last year, the business venture the year before that. Every time it was just this once, and I'll pay you back. You never paid me back for the car, I said quietly. Oh my God, are you seriously bringing that up now? Truman exploded. This is my wedding. And what about my life? I shot back. When does what I want matter? The silence that followed was deafening. Mom looked like I'd slapped her. Dad wouldn't meet my eyes. And Truman just stared at me with that entitled expectation I'd grown to hate. Fine, I finally said, standing up. I'll transfer the money tomorrow. Emma, thank you! Truman rushed to hug me, but I stepped back. Don't. My voice cracked. Just don't. I turned and walked upstairs, ignoring Mom's calls behind me. Back in my room, I pulled out the acceptance letter again. This time, I didn't just look at it. I read it aloud, every word, committing it to memory. Then I took out my phone and texted Audrey. You were right. They did it again. And I let them. Her response came quickly. Oh, honey, want me to come over? No, I need to be alone right now. I sat at my desk, looking at the architectural sketches covering my walls. Dreams drawn in careful lines and precise measurements. Tomorrow, I would transfer my savings to Truman's account. Tomorrow, I would watch another piece of myself slip away. But something else was happening too. Something new and uncomfortable and terrifying. As I sat there, surrounded by the ghosts of my ambitions, I felt a spark of anger ignite. Not the usual resigned frustration, but something fiercer. Something that whispered, "This is the last time." I just didn't know then how right that whisper would be, or how much everything would change in just 1 year. 1 year can change everything. I was grading student projects at my desk in the community college when Audrey burst into my classroom, waving her phone like it contained state secrets. "Have you seen Instagram today?" she asked, breathless. I shook my head, red pen hovering over a particularly creative but structurally impossible design. "Some of us have to work for a living, Aud." "Well, your darling sister-in-law just posted quite the show." She perched on my desk, shoving her phone in my face. "Look." There was Tiffany, my brother's wife, draped across some guy who definitely wasn't Truman. The caption read, "Living my best life. New chapter T-stroke freedom." "Wow," I said, trying to summon some surprise but finding none. "That didn't take long." "That's all you have to say? Your brother's marriage is imploding after what, 10 months? I set down my pen and leaned back. "You mean the marriage that cost me my dream school? The one with the ridiculous horse-drawn carriage and diamond-encrusted centerpieces? That marriage?" "Okay, point taken." Audrey hopped off my desk. "Want to grab dinner? We can trash-talk them both over wine." "Can't. I have to finish these grades and prep for tomorrow's lecture on sustainable urban development." I gestured to the stack of papers. "Living the dream, right?" "Joe, Emma," Audrey's voice softened. "You're allowed to be bitter about this." "I'm not bitter," I lied. "I'm teaching architecture to community college students instead of studying in Italy." "It's fine." My phone buzzed. A text from Mom. "Call your brother. He needs you." "Of course he does," I muttered, showing Audrey the message. "Don't you dare," she warned. "You've given him enough." Before I could respond, my classroom door creaked open again. This time it was Jarvis, another friend and fellow teacher. "Hey, Em, your brother's in the parking lot," he said, looking concerned. "He seems pretty messed up." I checked my watch, 9:45 p.m. "What's he doing here this late?" "Based on how he's swaying, I'd say drinking," Jarvis replied. "Perfect." I gathered my things, suddenly very tired. Guess I'm dealing with this now. "Want backup?" Audrey offered. "No, I got this. It's what I do, right? Fix Truman's messes?" The parking lot was dark, except for a few security lights. Truman's silhouette was easy to spot, leaning against my car. His usually immaculate appearance was gone, replaced by wrinkled clothes and messy hair. "Hey, sis," he slurred. "Remember when we were kids and you'd always protect me?" "What do you want, Truman?" He stumbled forward. "Tiffany's leaving me. She cleaned out our accounts." I saw the Instagram post. "Instagram?" He laughed bitterly. No, this is worse. She didn't just cheat, she took everything. The money, the house down payment, even my car." I crossed my arms. And? He looked shocked. "Emma, I need help. I need somewhere to stay. Maybe a loan to get back on my feet." "No." The word hung between us, sharp and final. "What do you mean, no?" His voice rose. "I'm your brother." "Yeah, and I'm your sister. The same sister who gave up studying in Italy for your wedding. The same sister who's been bailing you out since we were kids." My voice was steady, surprising even me. "But not anymore. Mom and Dad will—" "Let them," I cut him off. "I'm done being the family ATM." He staggered closer, grabbing my arm. "Please, Em, I've got nowhere else to go." I pulled away. "There's a motel down the street. Or call Mom and Dad. I'm sure they'll take you in. But I can't help you anymore, Truman. I won't. You're just going to leave me here? His voice cracked. Like you left me with empty dreams and a drained bank account? I unlocked my car. Yeah, I am. As I drove away, I watched him in my rearview mirror, standing alone in the parking lot. Part of me wanted to turn around, the same part that had always given in, always put him first, but something had changed in the past year. Maybe it was teaching young students about following their dreams while mine gathered dust. Maybe it was watching Tiffany's endless social media posts about their perfect life, bought with my sacrificed future. My phone started ringing, Mom's number flashing on the screen. I turned it off and kept driving. When I got home, I opened my desk drawer and pulled out that old acceptance letter. The paper had yellowed slightly, but the words still stung. "We are pleased to accept you." I didn't know it then, but this was just the beginning. Truman's late-night visit would set in motion events that would change everything, for both of us. Sunday family dinners were always a battlefield, but this one promised to be nuclear. I could feel it as soon as I walked through my parents' front door and saw Truman sitting at the dining table, looking like he'd aged 5 years in 3 days. "Emma!" Mom rushed to hug me. "Thank goodness you're here. Your brother's been telling us everything." "Has he?" I met Truman's bloodshot eyes. "Everything?" Dad emerged from the kitchen, wiping his hands on a dish towel. "Why didn't you help him when he came to you?" "No, hello." "No. How are you?" Straight to the accusations. "Because I'm not his personal bailout fund anymore," I said, hanging up my coat. "He's family," Mom hissed, as if I'd forgotten. "He needs us." Funny how that only applies when he needs something. I sat down across from Truman. "Have you told them about the gambling debts, or just the Tiffany drama?" The room went silent. Truman's face drained of color. "Gambling debts?" Dad's voice was dangerous and low. That's not important right now," Truman stammered. "Oh, I think it is." I pulled out my phone and opened a series of screenshots. "My friend works at the Grand Casino. Guess who's been spending thousands there every weekend?" Mom snatched the phone from my hands, her face growing paler with each swipe. "Truman, tell me this isn't true." "I was trying to win back what Tiffany took." He slammed his fist on the table, making the silverware jump. "I had a system." "A system?" I laughed. "Like your system for that failed food truck business? Or the cryptocurrency scheme?" "Emma, that's enough," Dad warned. "No, it's not enough." I stood up, my chair scraping against the floor. "You want to know why I didn't help him? Because every time we bail him out, he gets worse. He needs to face consequences for once in his life." "I'm right here," Truman growled. "Yeah, you are. Living in Mom and Dad's guest room, I assume. Still expecting everyone else to clean up your mess?" Mom started crying. Right on schedule. "Please," she sobbed. "We need to help him. Emma, you have savings." "No." I cut her off. "I already gave him my savings, remember? For the wedding that lasted less than a year?" "That was different," Dad argued. "How? How was it different?" My voice rose. "Because it was for something you approved of? Because precious Truman needed it?" "You're being cruel," Mom whispered. "I'm being realistic." I turned to Truman. "You want help? Here's help. Get a job. Pay your own debts. Grow up." Truman stood up, towering over me. "You think you're so perfect? At least I tried to do something with my life. What are you doing? Teaching at some second-rate college?" I'm doing what I can with what's left after you took my future," I shouted back. "Nobody took anything from you," Dad interrupted. "You chose to help your brother." "Chose?" I spun to face him. "Like I had a choice. You and Mom manipulated me into it, just like you always do." The doorbell rang, cutting through the tension. Mom wiped her eyes and went to answer it. "Emma?" Audrey's voice called from the entryway. "Ready to go?" I'd asked her to call with an emergency after an hour, knowing I'd need an escape route. "Yeah, coming." I grabbed my coat. "We're done here." "Emma, please," Truman called after me. "I'll do better, I promise." I paused at the door. Promises don't mean anything from you anymore. But here's one from me. This is the last time I watch you destroy yourself. You want to change? Prove it. How? His voice was small, almost like when we were kids. I pulled a folded paper from my pocket and tossed it on the table. That's a job application. Entry-level position at my college. Maintenance work, minimum wage. Not glamorous enough for you, probably. You can't be serious, Mom protested. Dead serious. Take the job or don't, but that's the only help you're getting from me. I walked out, Audrey close behind. As we got into her car, I could see my family through the dining room window. Mom crying, Dad comforting her. Truman staring at the job application like it was written in alien language. You okay? Audrey asked as we pulled away. No, I admitted, but I will be. My phone started buzzing with texts from Mom. How could you be so heartless? He's your brother. Family helps family. I turned off my phone and leaned back in the seat, exhausted but somehow lighter. For the first time in my life, I'd stood my ground. It felt terrifying and liberating all at once. What I didn't know then was that my ultimatum would have consequences none of us could have predicted. 3 days after the family dinner explosion, I was reviewing blueprints in my office when Jarvis knocked on my door, looking concerned. Your brother's here, he said. He's filling out paperwork in HR. I nearly dropped my coffee. He actually showed up? Wearing a tie and everything. Jarvis leaned against my doorframe. You sure about this? Having him work here? Before I could answer, my phone buzzed with a text from Audrey. Emergency, lunch, now. You need to see this. 20 minutes later, I sat across from Audrey at our usual cafe while she pulled up something on her laptop. Remember how I said something felt off about Truman's story? She turned the screen toward me. My friend at the bank did some digging. Look at these transactions. I scanned the document, my stomach dropping. These aren't just gambling debts. Nope. Audrey pointed to several large transfers. He was moving money around between accounts, taking loans from some pretty sketchy people. Classic pyramid scheme stuff. How much are we talking about? She named a figure that made me feel dizzy. I couldn't even finish the sentence. More than just casino losses? Yeah. Audrey closed her laptop. He's in deep, Em, like dangerous deep. The bell above the cafe door chimed, and I looked up to see Truman walking in, still wearing his new tie. He spotted us and headed over. Hey, he said, hovering awkwardly by our table. I got the job, starting tomorrow in maintenance. Congratulations, I said flatly. Who'd you borrow money from, Truman? He froze. What? The loans, the transfers. The real reason Tiffany left, maybe? His face went pale. How did you? Doesn't matter. What matters is you're not just gambling away your money anymore. You're in trouble with loan sharks, aren't you? Audrey stood up. I'll give you 2 a minute. After she left, Truman collapsed into her empty chair. I can explain. Please do. Explain how you got involved with people who break kneecaps for fun. It wasn't supposed to go this far, he whispered. I borrowed a little to cover some debts, then a little more to pay those debts. Then Tiffany found out and took everything before the sharks could get it, I finished. Smart girl. They're giving me 3 months, he said, staring at his hands. I thought if I could just win big once. That's your solution? More gambling? I don't know what else to do. His voice cracked. Mom and Dad's house is mortgaged to the hilt. You won't help. I'm running out of options. I took a long sip of my coffee, thinking about all the times I'd watched him dig himself deeper, all the times I'd thrown him a rope. The job pays $15 an hour, I said finally. If you work overtime and don't spend a penny on anything but food and basic necessities, you might save enough to make a dent. That would take years. Better than broken bones. I stood up. I have a class to teach. Don't be late tomorrow. As I walked back to campus, my phone rang. Mom again. I answered this time. Have you seen your brother? She demanded. Some scary-looking men came by the house asking for him. He's fine, I said. He got the job. A janitor's job? That's your idea of helping? It's called maintenance staff, Mom. And yes, it's helping. It's called earning your way out of trouble. These men seemed dangerous, Emma. We need to do something. No, he needs to do something. For once in his life. I hung up and texted Jarvis. Keep an eye on Truman tomorrow. Don't let him near the cash office. His response came quickly. Already on it. Security's been notified. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about those transaction records, about the kind of people who would loan money to someone like Truman. My phone lit up with a text from an unknown number. Your brother owes us. Family pays family's debts. You have 2 weeks. I blocked the number, my hands shaking. This was bigger than stolen dreams now. This was dangerous. Another text, this time from Truman. I'm sorry for everything. I'll do better. I promise. I stared at his message for a long time before responding. Actions, not words. See you tomorrow. Setting my phone down, I walked to my window and looked out at the city lights. Somewhere out there, people were looking for my brother, counting down the days until their money was due. And here I was, caught between wanting to protect him and knowing I had to let him face this on his own. Tomorrow would be his first day of real work. His first step toward either redemption or disaster. And I had front row seats to whatever came next. I was erasing architectural diagrams from the whiteboard when Professor Martinez knocked on my classroom door. My old mentor hadn't changed a bit. Same silver hair, same kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. Emma, got a minute? She was practically bouncing with excitement. For you? Always. I set down the eraser. What's up? She pulled out a glossy brochure. The International Architecture Symposium in Rome. They're looking for emerging talents to present innovative urban development concepts. I submitted your sustainable housing project. My heart stopped. You what? They loved it. You're in, if you want it. All expenses paid, plus a chance to showcase your work to the top firms in Europe. The room spun slightly. Rome, architecture, everything I'd dreamed of. When? I managed to ask. 3 months from now. Say yes, Emma. This could change everything. Before I could respond, Jarvis burst in. Emma, we need you. Your brother's having some kind of breakdown in the maintenance room. Of course he was. I'll think about it, I told Professor Martinez, already heading for the door. I found Truman sitting on the floor of the supply closet, surrounded by cleaning supplies, his head in his hands. 2 weeks of actual work had taken their toll. His hands were calloused, his clothes stained with cleaning products. They found Mom and Dad's house, he said without looking up, left a warning on their door. Are they okay? They're staying with Aunt Sarah. He finally looked at me, his eyes red. I can't do this, Em. This job. It's not enough. Not fast enough. Stand up, I ordered. What? Stand. Up. He did, slowly, wincing from muscle aches he wasn't used to. You've worked here 2 weeks, I said. That's the longest you've ever stuck with anything. You want to quit now? You don't understand. These people. No, you don't understand. I grabbed a mop and shoved it into his hands. This isn't about the job. This is about finally growing up. You want to fix this? Keep working. Every hour, every day. Show them you're serious about paying them back. They're not exactly patient people, Emma. Then call them, I said. Show them your pay stubs. Set up a payment plan. Prove you're not running away this time. He gripped the mop handle until his knuckles went white. Why are you helping me like this? After everything? Because watching you suffer isn't as satisfying as watching you grow up. My phone buzzed. Professor Martinez. Need your answer by Friday. Don't let this opportunity slip away. What's that? Truman asked. Nothing. I put my phone away. Get back to work. Those floors won't clean themselves. Later that evening, I sat in my apartment, staring at the symposium brochure. Audrey paced behind me. You have to go, she insisted. This is everything you've wanted. I can't leave now. Not with everything happening with Truman. That's exactly why you should leave. She stopped pacing. He's not your responsibility. Let him figure it out himself. My phone rang. An unknown number again. This time, I answered. Miss Emma? A gruff voice asked. About your brother's debt. I'm listening. We've seen his work records. Not much, but it's something. We might be willing to extend terms, if you guarantee the payments. I closed my eyes. No, I'm not co-signing his debt. He needs to handle this himself. Dangerous choice, miss. So is threatening a man's family when he's trying to pay you back. He's working now. Let him pay. I hung up before they could respond. Are you insane? Audrey grabbed my phone. You can't talk to loan sharks like that. Actually, I can. I stood up and walked to my desk, pulling out the symposium brochure again. Because I'm done being afraid, done putting my life on hold. I picked up my phone and called Professor Martinez. I'm in, I said when she answered. I'll go to Rome. After hanging up, I texted Truman. Meet me tomorrow before your shift. We need to talk. His response came quickly. Everything okay? Yes, I typed back. For the first time in a long time, everything's okay. I looked out my window at the darkening sky, feeling something I hadn't felt in years. Hope. Not just for me, but for Truman too. He was finally facing his demons, and I was finally facing mine. The fear of putting myself first, of reaching for what I wanted. Rome was waiting, and this time, nothing would stop me from going. But first, I had to tell my brother I was leaving, and hope that the progress he'd made wouldn't crumble in my absence. The campus coffee shop was nearly empty when Truman arrived for our morning meeting. He looked different after a month of real work. Thinner, stronger. His designer clothes replaced by practical wear. You're leaving? He stared at the symposium brochure I'd handed him. To Italy? Rome, for the architecture symposium. I stirred my coffee. I leave in 2 months. But what about? He gestured vaguely, meaning everything. The loan sharks, his job, our parents. You're doing well here, Truman. The maintenance supervisor says you're one of his best workers. That's because I'm terrified of disappointing you. He laughed, but it wasn't really a joke. Good. Stay terrified. Keep working. I pulled out an envelope. I've worked out a payment schedule with your creditors. They've agreed to the terms as long as you stick to it. He took the envelope with trembling hands. How did you? I didn't pay them, I cut him off. I just negotiated. The payments come from your salary. Miss one, and the deal's off. Thank you, he whispered. Don't thank me yet. I leaned forward. Because here's the hard part. I won't be here to watch over you anymore. I can handle it, he said quickly. Too quickly. Can you? Because Mom called me crying last night, said you were talking about taking a weekend trip to Atlantic City. His face flushed. It wasn't. I just thought. You thought what? My voice rose. That one big win would solve everything? I could pay them back faster. Or lose everything again. I stood up, my chair scraping loudly. Several students turned to look. You haven't changed at all, have you? That's not fair. I'm working my ass off here. Working isn't enough if you're still thinking like a gambler. He stood too, towering over me. You don't get to judge me. You've never made a mistake in your perfect life. Perfect! I laughed bitterly. I gave up everything for you. My dreams, my savings, my future, all so you could throw it away on a failed marriage and gambling debts. I never asked for that. No, you just expected it. Like you expected Mom and Dad to always bail you out. Like you expected me to fix everything. People were definitely staring now. Jarvis appeared from somewhere, moving toward us cautiously. Everything okay here? He asked. Fine, I snapped. My brother was just leaving. To go gambling, apparently. Emma, stop, Truman pleaded. No, you stop. I grabbed the payment schedule from his hands. You want to gamble? Fine, but this deal is off. Handle your own mess. Please, his voice cracked. I was just thinking about it. I wouldn't actually. Save it. I crumpled the paper and threw it at him. I'm done believing your promises. I stormed out, ignoring his calls behind me. Audrey caught up with me in the parking lot. That was quite a show, she said. He was going to gamble again. My hands were shaking. After everything, he was going to throw it all away. Was he? Or was he just thinking about it? She touched my arm. People don't change overnight, Em. He's had a month. To overcome a lifetime of bad habits? She shook her head. Maybe he needs more than tough love right now. My phone buzzed. A text from Truman. I'm sorry, I won't go. Please don't tear up the payment schedule. I'll do better. Then another. I'm scared you're leaving. And another. I don't know how to do this without you. I sat on the curb, suddenly exhausted. Audrey sat beside me. You know what's really scary? I said. Part of me wanted him to fail, to prove I was right about him. That's called being human. She bumped my shoulder. The question is, what are you going to do now? I looked at my phone again, at Truman's desperate text, at the coffee shop window, where I could see him still standing, looking lost. I'm going to Rome, I said firmly. But first, I'm going to make sure he has the tools to succeed, or fail. His choice. I walked back into the coffee shop. Truman hadn't moved. The payment schedule stays, I said, but I'm adding conditions. Weekly counseling for gambling addiction, financial literacy classes, and you report to Jarvis while I'm gone. You're still leaving? He sounded like a little kid. Yes, because I need to live my life too. I straightened his maintenance uniform collar. The question is, what are you going to do with yours? He picked up the crumpled payment schedule, carefully smoothing it out. I want to be better, I really do. Then prove it. Not to me, to yourself. As I walked to my first class of the day, I realized something. For the first time, I wasn't fixing Truman's problems. I was giving him the chance to fix them himself. Whether he took that chance or not, well, that would be the real test. Your brother's here again, Jarvis said, poking his head into my office. Third time this week. I glanced at the clock. 6:30 a.m. 2 weeks before my flight to Rome. Send him in. Truman entered, carrying 2 coffee cups and a folder stuffed with papers. Dark circles under his eyes, but clear-eyed and focused. Morning, he said, handing me a coffee. I need your help with something. If it's money, it's not. He opened the folder. I've been taking those financial literacy classes. The instructor helped me make a 5-year plan. He spread the papers across my desk. Can you look it over? I scanned the documents. Detailed budgets, payment schedules, even a small savings plan. Real work, real effort. This is impressive, I admitted. I've been going to the counseling too. He sat down, fidgeting with his maintenance uniform sleeve. Did you know Dad was a gambler before we were born? I looked up sharply. What? Yeah. That's why they pushed me so hard to succeed in business. They were terrified I'd end up like him. He laughed bitterly. Guess that worked out great. Mom and Dad never said anything. They never say anything real. He took a sip of coffee. That's what my therapist says. Our family's great at avoiding hard truths. The door opened and Audrey burst in, waving a newspaper. Emma, you're in the paper, the symposium article. She stopped short. Oh, sorry, family moment? No, it's okay. Truman stood up. I should get to work anyway. Thanks for looking at the plan. Wait, I called as he reached the door. How are the payments going? He turned back, a small smile playing at his lips. 3 months clean. No gambling. No missed payments. The sharks are less sharky now. After he left, Audrey practically threw the newspaper at me. Look, they interviewed Professor Martinez about your selection. But I was still staring at the door. He's different. Who, Truman? Yeah, no kidding. She perched on my desk. Jarvis says he's been coming in early, staying late. Even helped a student jumpstart their car last week. And the gambling? Clean as a whistle, goes straight home after work, attends his meetings. She nudged me. Your tough love worked. Maybe too well. I picked up his 5-year plan. Look at this. He's actually planning for the future. Isn't that what you wanted? Yes, but I gestured helplessly. I'm still leaving in 2 weeks. And? And what if he relapses while I'm gone? What if... Stop. Audrey grabbed my shoulders. You're not responsible for his recovery. He's doing this for himself now, not for you. My phone buzzed. A text from Mom. Truman showed us his financial plan. Is this your doing? No, I typed back. It's his doing. Later that day, I found Truman cleaning windows in the main hall. Students passed by, some nodding hello. He'd become a familiar face on campus. Your plan, I said, holding up the folder. It's good, really good. But nothing. I handed it back. I'm proud of you. He nearly dropped his cleaning supplies. You've never said that before. You've never deserved it before. He set down his bucket. I'm scared about you leaving. I know. But I'm also happy for you. Finally getting your dream. Part of my dream, I corrected. The symposium is just the beginning. He picked up his bucket again. I'll keep sending Jarvis weekly updates, and I'll keep going to meetings, I promise. I believe you, I said, surprising myself by meaning it. That evening, I sat in my apartment packing for Rome. Audrey helped, occasionally sneaking looks at me. Just say it, I sighed. Okay, you're worried about leaving because you think he's only doing well because of you. But you're wrong. She folded a sweater. He's doing well because he finally hit rock bottom and chose to climb up. My phone buzzed. Another text from Truman. Found this while cleaning the storage room. Attached was a photo of an old architectural sketch I'd done years ago, forgotten in a filing cabinet. Still your best critic, he added. This design would never work. The support beams are all wrong. I laughed out loud. He'd been paying attention all those times I'd talked about architecture. He's going to be okay, Audrey said softly. Yeah, I replied, looking at the photo. I think he is. For the first time, the thought of leaving didn't feel like abandonment. It felt like trust. Trust in Truman's recovery, in his growth, in his ability to stand on his own. And maybe, just maybe, that was the greatest revenge of all. Not destroying him, but helping him become strong enough to save himself. Rome was waiting. And now, finally, I could go without looking back. The applause in the Rome conference hall faded as I stepped down from the podium. My hands were still shaking from presenting my sustainable urban housing project to some of the biggest names in architecture. Brilliant presentation, Professor Martinez beamed, hugging me. And those questions you fielded about cost-effective community integration? Perfect responses. My phone buzzed with a video call from Audrey. When I answered, I saw her squished into frame with Jarvis and Truman, all crowded around a laptop in my old office. We watched the live stream, Audrey squealed. You killed it. The part about renewable materials was genius, Truman added, though your Italian still needs work. I laughed. Since when do you speak Italian? Since I started taking night classes at the community college. He adjusted his maintenance supervisor badge, a promotion he'd earned last week. Someone's got to be able to translate when you're running your own firm in Rome. Getting ahead of yourself there, little brother? Actually, Professor Martinez cut in, he might not be. Come with me. She led me through the crowd to where 2 elegantly dressed women waited. Emma, meet Maria and Lucia from Bertoli Architects. They'd like to discuss your project, and perhaps your future. My heart stopped. Bertoli was one of the top sustainable architecture firms in Europe. Excuse me, I told the video call. Opportunity knocking. Go get 'em, sis, Truman said before disconnecting. 20 minutes later, I stood on the conference center's balcony, staring at an official offer letter from Bertoli. A real position with real projects in Rome. My phone rang. Mom. I saw your presentation, she said when I answered. Your father and we were wrong, Emma, about everything. Mom. No, let me finish. We always pushed Truman because we thought he was fragile. But we should have pushed you too, toward your dreams, not away from them. I leaned against the balcony rail, watching the Roman sunset. Truman's doing better than ever. Because you finally stopped catching him when he fell. You made him learn to catch himself. She paused. He's teaching a financial literacy class now, did you know? At his gambling recovery meetings. He didn't tell me that. Take the job, Emma. The one I know they just offered you. Take it and don't look back. How did you? Because you're my daughter, and I finally see how brilliant you are. Her voice cracked. I'm so sorry it took me so long. After we hung up, I called Truman. Did you know about Mom watching the live stream? I asked. Know about it? I set it up for her. Dad, too. They're finally seeing you, Em. The real you. The real me just got offered a job here. A long pause. You're taking it, right? I don't know. After everything, you deserve it more than ever. He took a deep breath. I paid off the last of my debts yesterday. I nearly dropped my phone. What? How? Remember that 5-year plan? I modified it, picked up extra shifts, sold my designer stuff, lived on ramen. But I did it. I'm free. Truman, that's amazing. Yeah, well, I had a good teacher. Speaking of which, I registered for architecture classes. You what? Just basics. Thought it might help me understand what my big sister's been talking about all these years. He chuckled. Plus, someone's got to keep the family business running while you're conquering Europe. I looked at the offer letter again, then at the Roman skyline stretching before me. You're really okay? This isn't just... I'm okay. Better than okay. Now stop worrying about me and sign that contract. I pulled out a pen. How do you know I haven't signed it already? Because you're you, always putting everyone else first. His voice softened. But not this time, okay? This time, put yourself first. I signed with a flourish, the ink bold against the white paper. Done. Good. I could hear his smile. Now go design something amazing. And Emma? Yeah? Thank you, not for saving me, but for showing me how to save myself. I watched a flock of birds soar past, dark shapes against the orange sky. I love you, little brother. Love you too, sis. Now go change the world. I've got some windows to clean. I hung up and walked back into the conference hall, offer letter in hand. Professor Martinez waited with the Bertolli representatives, champagne glasses ready. So? She asked. Are you ready? I thought about the long road here, the sacrifices, the pain, the growth. Thought about Truman finding his way, about Mom and Dad finally seeing me, about dreams deferred but never forgotten. Yes, I said, taking a glass. I'm ready. And I was, ready to build, to create, to soar, ready to live the life I'd always dreamed of, knowing that sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even, it's about getting better.